The story offered here takes place about 100 years prior to the events described in A Game of Thrones. Clink. Zach's not here this week, which means that Tom gets to do whatever he wants. Welcome, everyone. It's been a while since we've done one of these. We are going to do. We're gonna do the Hedge Knight. What is the preface here? We're gonna do the Hedge Knight. I have in front of me a PDF copy of the Hedge Knight. By the way, what you're seeing on screen is a screenshot from the Hedge Knight graphic novel. Strongly recommended. I have it. It's on my bookshelf right over there. It is beautiful, gorgeous, wonderful. Strongly recommended. However, if you have a copy of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, or if you happen to have found yourself a PDF in some extremely legal fashion, you can follow along. If you feel that your George Martin, let's use the phrase, homework has been lagging a little bit, this video is so that you don't have to. You don't have to read the Hedge Knight. You should. It's excellent. But I'm about to do it for you. I'm so excited. And a video like this, which we've done before, if you are interested, you too can be one of the 105 people who've watched my Great Gatsby video. We did this for the Great Gatsby, and in the Great Gatsby, I took a drink of this, what does this say? James Bayham? James Bayham, Kentucky-flavored juice beverage. Now, you may say to me, Tom, what does it mean to be Kentucky-flavored? And I'll say back to you, howdy. I'm going to drink I'm going to drink a drink of this James Bayham every time Duncan the Tall does something stupid. Now, if you're not familiar with this novella, you might say, Tom, that can't be that often. And if you are familiar with this novella, you might be saying, Tom, what's wrong with you? You're not gonna be okay. Before we dive in, I hope that everyone throws something in the comments section. Throw your favorite stupid thing that Duncan the Tall did. Like the video, it really does make YouTube more likely to tell other people about this silly nonsense. If you want to subscribe, that would be wonderful. I get to do stupid stuff like this. And if you like, comment, and subscribe and this video does well, then I get to do these stupid things more. Oh, and subscribe to our Patreon. I'm going to be uploading outtakes there soon. Delicious. I'm going to start off this video, somewhat proper. We're going to do some literary analysis, but man, as the stupidity piles up, it's going to get more and more fun the deeper we get. All right, here we go. The spring rains had softened the ground, so Dunk had no trouble digging the grave. He chose a spot on the western slope of a low hill, for the old man had always loved to watch the sunset. Another day done, he would sigh, and who knows what the morrow will bring us, eh, Dunk? Well, one morrow had brought rains that soaked them to the bones, and the one after that had brought wet, gusty winds and then a chill. By the fourth day, the man was too weak to ride, and now he was gone. Only a few days past, he had been singing as they rode, the old song about going to Gulltown to see a fair maid. But instead of Gulltown, he'd sung of Ashford, off to Ashford to see a fair maid. Hi-ho, Dunk thought miserably as he dug. This is Sir Duncan the Tall, the wonderful, beautiful, not too terribly bright, but noble and good-natured hero of this story. If anything in Game of Thrones can be said to have a hero, it is Duncan the Tall. Duncan, the man who does not compromise his morals, who protects the innocent, who works to help the people around him, even at the cost of himself. And he's only, 19 or something like that. He's a wonderful character. I love him, and I love these books, and I'm so excited. So he's digging a grave. Sir Arlen of Pennytree, I think? Yes, Arlen of Pennytree has died. And Sir Arlen has left Dunk alone. Dunk was his squire. And over the course of this book, we will start to see hints that though Dunk says he's a knight, he may not be, but we'll get to that. When the hole was deep enough, he lifted the old man's body in his arms and carried him there. He'd been a small man and slim. Stripped of hauberk, helm, and sword belt, he seemed to weigh no more than a bag of leaves. Dunk was hugely tall for his age, a shambling, shaggy, big-boned boy of 16 or 17 years, no one was quite certain which, who stood closer to 7 feet than to 6, and he had only just begun to fill out his frame. The old man had often praised his strength. He'd always been generous in praise. It was all he had to give. Duncan is burying Sir Arlen. There's the smell of rain in the air, and he knew he ought to fill the rain before the... He knew he ought to fill the hole before the rain broke, but it was hard. It's hard to throw the dirt down on the old man. He thought that there ought to be a septon here to say some prayers over him, but he only has me. The old man had taught Dunk all he knew of swords and shields and lances, but had never been much good at teaching him words. Now we get the first words of Sir Duncan the Tall. "I'd leave your sword, but it would rust in the ground," he said at last, apologetic. He said at last, apologetic. "The gods will give you a new one, I guess. I wish you didn't die." What a wonderful character. He paused. He was uncertain what else needed to be said. He didn't know any prayers, not all the way through. The old man had never been much for praying. "You were a true knight, and you never beat me when I didn't deserve it," he managed finally. "Except that one time in Maidenpool. It was the inn boy who ate the widow woman's pie, not me. I told you. It don't matter now. The gods keep you, sir." He kicked dirt in the hole and then began to fill it methodically, never looking at the thing in the bottom. He had a long life, Dunk thought. He must have been closer to 60 than to 50, and how many men can say that? At least he had lived to see another spring. What a wonderful, beautiful, sad piece of character development. This is one of the reasons that we all like this author and this writing style so much. We have learned so much about the relationship between these two characters in one page. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I'm going to have trouble finding things to poke fun at. The sun was westering as he fed the... I'll poke fun at the word westering. The sun was westering. There were 3 swayed by... Yes, we have Thunder, the war horse, absolutely. If I sold Thunder and old Chestnut and the saddles and bridles too, I'd come away with enough silver to... Dunk frowned. The only life he knew was the life of a hedge knight, riding from keep to keep, taking service with this lord and that lord, fighting in their battles and eating in their halls until the war was done, and then moving on. There were tourneys from time to time, though less often, and he knew that some hedge knights turned robber during lean winters, though the old man never had. This is a theme of George Martin's work generally. It is the theme of fond remembrance, right? It is remembering things as better than they were. Now, I'm not going to cast aspersions on the life of Arlen of Pennytree, right? But at funerals, a person is always better than they were, aren't they? I could find another hedge knight in need of a squire to tend his animals and clean his mail, he thought. Or might be I could go to some city, to Janisport or King's Landing, and join the city watch. Or else... Janisport, you say? Janisport, is that where Janis Joplin's from? He had piled the old man's things under an oak. The cloth purse contained 3 silver stags, 19 copper pennies, and a chipped garnet. As with most hedge knights, the greatest part of his worldly wealth had been tied up in his horses and weapons. Dunk now owned a chainmail hauberk that he had scoured the rust off 1,000 times, an iron half-helm with a broad nasal and a dent in the left temple, a sword of cracked brown leather, and a long sword in a wood and leather scabbard, a dagger, a razor, a whetstone, greaves and gorget, an 8-foot war lance of turned ash topped by a cruel iron point, and an oaken shield with a scarred metal rim, bearing the sigil of Sir Arlen of Pennytree, a winged chalice, silver on brown. Dunk looks at the shield, right? He scoops up the belt and looks at the shield again. The belt was made for the old man's skinny hips. He thinks that it would never do for a man of his size, so he literally ties it around his waist and knots it and draws the longsword. The blade was straight and heavy, good castle-forged steel. The grip was soft leather wrapped over wood. The pommel a smooth, polished black stone. Plain as it was, the sword felt good in his hands, and Dunk knew how sharp it was, having worked it with the whetstone and oilcloth many a night before they went to sleep. It fits my grip as well as it ever fit his, he thought to himself, and there's a tourney at Ashford Meadow. So we now have everything we need to know about the first part of the plot of this story. The plot, I should say, involving the first half of the duo that these stories are so often named for. This is who Dunk is. It may be the case that there's more to him, but this is who Dunk is, as far as we know. Dunk is an honest man, a kid, really, who is suddenly alone in the world. He's big and broad and brawny, but he doesn't know much because he grew up an orphan in Flea Bottom. So what he will become is uncertain. I also need to figure out the voices for these characters. I'm not sure how to voice Sir Duncan the Tall. I didn't think about it. You know what? Hey, there we go. Whoop. Clink. That's something stupid that I did. Oh, James. Oh, James. Oh, Kentucky tastes like burning. Oh, my God. Oh. Oh. Here we go. I hope you're strapped in. It's going to be a long one. Sweetfoot had an easier gait than Old Chestnut, but Dunk was still sore and tired when he spied the inn ahead. A tall, daub and timber That's hard to say. A tall, daub and timber building beside a stream. The warm yellow light spilling from its windows looked so inviting that he could not pass it by. What's our voice for Dunk? I have 3 silvers. I have 3 silvers. I have 3 silvers. I have 3 silvers. We'll workshop it. Let's go with, for the moment, it's going to be Shrek. I have 3 silvers. Damn. My voices are, for the moment, he's going to be, what can I do reliably? Donkey. I have 3 silvers. Okay. Dunk is going to be voiced in Tom's normal voice. I have 3 silvers, he told himself. Enough for a good meal and as much ale as I care to drink. As he dismounted, a naked boy emerged, dripping from the stream, and began to dry himself on a rough-spun brown cloak. Are you the stable boy? Dunk asked him. The lad looked to be no more than 8 or 9, a pasty-faced, skinny thing, his bare feet caked in mud up to the ankle. His hair was the queerest thing about him. He had none. I'll want my palfrey rubbed down, and oats for all 3. Can you tend to them? The boy looked at him brazenly. I could if I wanted. Dunk frowned. I'll have none of that. I am a knight, I'll have you know. You don't look like a knight. Do all knights look the same? No, but they don't look like you either. Your sword belt's made of rope. So long as it holds my scabbard, it serves. Now see to my horses. You'll get a copper if you do well, and a cloud on the ear if you don't. He did not wait to see how the stable boy took that, but turned and shouldered through the door. At this hour, he would have expected the inn to be crowded, but the common room was almost empty. A young lordling in a fine damask mantle was passed out at one table, softly snoring into a pool of spilled wine. Otherwise, there was no one. Dunk looked around uncertainly until a stout, short, whey-faced woman emerged from the kitchens and said, Sit where you like. Is it ale you want or food? Both. Dunk took a chair by the window, well away from the sleeping man. Let's look up some words. What is whey-faced? Whey-faced. Define a person. Whey-faced means pale. especially as a result of ill health, shock, or fear. Very interesting. Boop, boop. There's good lamb. There's good lamb, roasted with a crust of herbs and some ducks my son shot down. Which will you have? He had not eaten at an inn in half a year or more. Both. The woman laughed. Well, you're big enough for it. She drew a tankard of ale and brought it to his table. Will you be wanting a room for the night as well? No. Dunk would have liked nothing more than a soft straw mattress and a roof above his head, but he needed to be careful with his coin. The ground would serve. Some food, some ale, and it's on to Ashford for me. How much further is it? A day's ride, bear north when the road forks at the burnt mill. Is my boy seeing to your horses, or has he run off again? No, he's there, said Dunk. You seem to have no custom. Half the town's gone to see in the tourney. Me own would go as well if I'd allowed it. They'll have this in when I go, but the boy would sooner swagger about with soldiers, and the girls would turn to sighs and giggles every time a knight rides by. I swear I couldn't tell you why. Knights are built the same as other men, and I never knew a joust to change the price of eggs. What a wonderful sentiment. She eyed Dunk curiously. His sword and shield told her one thing, his rope, belt, and rough-spun tunic quite another. You're bound for the tourney yourself? He took a sip of the ale before he answered. A nut-brown color it was, and thick on the tongue, the way he liked it. Aye, he said. I mean to be champion. Do you now? The innkeep answered, polite enough. Across the room, the lordling raised his head from the wine puddle. His face had a sallow, unhealthy cast to it. Beneath a rat's nest of sandy brown hair and blonde stubble, his face had a sallow, unhealthy cast to it beneath a rat's nest of sandy brown hair, and blonde stubble crusted his chin. He rubbed his mouth, blinked at Dunk, and said, I dreamed of you. His hand trembled as he pointed a finger. You stay away from me, you hear? You stay well away. Dunk stared at him uncertainly. My lord? The innkeep leaned close. Never you mind that one, sir. All he does is drink and talk about dreams. I'll see about that food. And she bustled off. Food. The lordling made the word an obscenity. He staggered to his feet, one hand on the table to keep himself from falling. Oh, I'm gonna be sick, he announced. The front of his tunic was crusty red with old wine stains. I wanted a whore, but there's none to be found here. All gone to Ashford Meadow. Gods be good, I need some wine. He lurched unsteadily from the common room, and Dunk heard him climbing the steps, singing under his breath. See, one of the problem, and I'm going to drink because this is something stupid that I've done. What I have done is pick a story that I enjoy so much that I really don't have all that much commentary. And I'm going to do everything I can to stop this just full-on becoming an audiobook. When I did The Great Gatsby, there were parts that I was more than happy to skip. But with this one, there's certainly not. A sad creature, thought Dunk. But why did he think he knew me? He pondered that a moment over his ale. The lamb was as good as any he had ever eaten, and the duck was even better, cooked with cherries and lemons and not near as greasy as most. We have our food description. Oh, buttered peas we have. Oat bread, absolutely. Suck the meat off the bones. He said, this is what it means to be a knight, he told himself as he sucked the last bit of meat off the bone. Good food and ale whenever I want it, and no one to clout me in the head. Let's see. He paid the woman with a silver stag and still got back a fistful of coppers, absolutely. All right, he's left. His stomach was full and his purse was lighter. He walked to the stables. He heard a horse whicker. Yes, yes. He found the stable boy mounted on Thunder and wearing the old man's armor. The hauberk was longer than he was, and he had to tilt the helm back on his bald head, or else it would have covered his eyes. He looked utterly intent and utterly absurd. Dunk stopped in the stable door and laughed. The person who we know is Egg jumps down. My lord, I did not mean thief, said Dunk, trying to sound stern. You take that armor off and be glad Thunder didn't kick you in the head. He's a war horse, not a pony. Hang on. Dunk has done something stupid. Scolding a person who we will discover later in the book, spoilers, we will discover later in the book that this boy is something of some import. This boy is kind of a big deal, and he casually scolds this child. I could ride him as well as you, says Egg. Close your mouth. I want none of your insolence. This hauberk too. Take it off. What did you think you were doing? I don't like my voice for Dunk. Let's see. Close your mouth. Close your mouth. Close your mouth. Close your mouth. I want none of your insolence. There we go. How can I tell you? Okay. Close your mouth. Close your mouth. I want none of your insolence. The hauberk too. Take it off. What did you think you were doing? How can I tell you with my mouth closed? The boy squirmed out of the chainmail. You can open your mouth to answer. Now pick that mail up, shake off the dirt, and put it back where you found it. The half-helm too. Did you feed the horses as I told you and rub down Sweetfoot? The boy says, yes, you're going to Ashford, aren't you? Take me with you, sir. And what might your mother say to that? My mother? My mother's dead. She wouldn't say anything. He was a little surprised. Wasn't the incuby's mother? Perhaps he was only apprenticed to her. Dunk's head was a little fuzzy from the ale. Are you an orphan? Are you an orphan boy? He asked uncertainly. Are you? I was once, till the old... Dunk admitted, and then parenthetically, till the old man took me in. If you took me, I could squire for you. I've no need of a squire. Every knight needs a squire, and you look like you need one more than most. Dunk raised a hand threateningly. And you look as though you need a cloud in the air, it seems to me. You look like you need a cloud in the air, it seems to me. Fill me a sack of oats. I'm off for Ashford. Alone. Oh, Dunk continues to do this. If the boy was frightened, he hid it well. He stood there for a moment defiant, but just as Dunk was about to give up on him, he turned to get the oats. Okay. The lad was disappointed. Threw him a copper penny. He throws him a copper penny, and he makes the boy makes no attempt to catch it. It fell in the dirt between his feet. And this is where Dunk should really yeah, I'm taking a drink, right? I'm taking a drink because this is really the point in the story when Dunk should start to realize that something is off with this child. This child who he has taken for a stable boy, right? An extremely poor child, right? Does not even flinch at a copper penny, right? And Dunk, oh, that's terrible. And Dunk should know that something is wrong. But we'll see in a moment. He'll scoop it up as soon as I'm gone, Dunk told himself. He turned the palfrey and rode from the inn, leading the two other horses. The trees were bright with moonlight, and the sky was cloudless and speckled with stars. Yet as he headed down the road, he could feel the stable boy watching his back, sullen and silent. Then there's a bit of a time skip. The shadows are dark. He passes a field of wildflowers. Oh, wonderful, beautiful. Okay, right, here we go. The shadows of the afternoon were growing long when Dunk reined up on the edge of broad Ashford meadow. 70 pavilions had already risen on the grassy field. Some were small, some were large, some square, some round, some of sailcloth, some of linen. They were brightly colored. He sees long banners, brighter than a field of wildflowers, with rich reds and sunny yellows, and countless blues and greens and blacks and grays and purples. Let's see, he says the old man definitely rode with some of these knights. He told Dunk the tales around the campfires. Though he had never learned the magic of reading or writing, the old man had been relentless when it came to teaching him heraldry, often drilling him as they rode. So he sees Lord Caron of the Marches, the crowned stag of Sir Lionel Baratheon, the Laughing Storm. He sees the Tarly Huntsman, the Purple Lightning of House Dondarrion, the Red Apple of the Fossaways. He sees Lannister, he sees Estermont, he sees Otho Bracken, also called the Brute of Bracken, since slaying Quentin Blackwood 3 years past, during a tourney at King's Landing. Dunk heard that Sir Otho struck so hard with the blunted long axe that he stove in the visor of Lord Blackwood's head. My God. Let's see, Blackwood banners on the west side of the meadow, as distant from Sir Otho as they could be. We have, ready for this list, Marbrand, Mellister, Cargill, Westerling, Swan, Mullendore, Hightower, Florin, Frey, Penrose, Stokeworth, Daffy, Perrin, Wild. That is 14. and just in that list. And people wonder why it's hard to get people into this series. It's hard to get motherfuckers into this series because of this, George. So he said, it seemed as though every lordly house from the west and the south had sent a knight or three to Ashford to see the fair maid and brave the lists in her honor. So this is a tournament celebrating a wedding. Let's see, pavilions were fine to look upon while they dined on capons and suckling pig. Dunk's supper would be stringy, hard salt beef. He knew full well that if he made his camp on that gaudy field, he would need to suffer both silent scorn and open mockery. A few perhaps would treat him kindly, yet that in a way was almost worse. We're starting to talk about class already, something that will come up over the course of this series. Hedge Knight must hold tight to his pride. Without it, he was no more than a sellsword. Let's see. He picks an elm, and he says, "This will be my pavilion," Dunk told himself. A pavilion roofed with leaves, greener even than the banners of the Tyrells and the Estermonts. But his horses came first, so he cleans his horse. A true knight is cleanly as well as godly, the old man had said, and that they washed themselves from head to heel every time the moon turned, whether they smelled sour or not. Slight sidebar, right? I've talked about, like, time travel romances before. We discussed one for the Christmas episode, which was a god-awful disaster, by the way. I'm not going to take a drink here, right? Because frequent bathing is not something stupid that Dunk does. That's something smart that Dunk does. However, time travel, like there's the image of the what's the turn of phrase I want to use? Of the handsome and sultry knight, which is often turned into the sexy knight, right? But Dunk has never brushed his teeth. I'll just leave it at that. Anyway, so he sits naked as he dries, enjoying the warmth of the spring air. Lovely. Oh, he sees a dragonfly and wonders why they would name it a dragonfly. It looks nothing like a dragon. Not that Dunk had ever seen a dragon. The old man had, though. Dunk had heard the story 100 times, how Sir Arlen had been just a little boy when his grandfather had taken him to King's Landing, and how they'd seen the last dragon there the year before it died. She'd been a green female, small and stunted, her wings withered. None of the eggs had ever hatched. Some say King Aegon poisoned her, the old man would tell. The third Aegon that would be, not King Daeron's father, the one they named Dragonbane, or Aegon the Unlucky. He was afraid of dragons, for he'd seen, spoilers for House of the Dragon, spoilers. The summers have been shorter since the last dragon died, and the winters longer and crueler. I'm going to go ahead and put that parenthetical in there. I'm not going to spoil House of the Dragon. Sir Arlen of Pennytree casually spoiled House of the Dragon like Season 4. Careful of those. They're all over the place. Let's see, what else do we have? So I wanted to talk about dragonflies. I find this interesting. I've never noticed this before. One of Egg's children is called the Knight of Dragonflies, I think. So it's interesting that they have this here. Although that is quite a bit away from the story we're telling now. The air cooled. He feels goose flesh. He would seek out the master of games and roll his name. Lovely. He did not need to study his reflection. He knew that he did not look like a knight, so he slung Sir Arlen's shield across his back to display the sigil. Hobbling the horses, Dunk left them to crop the thick grass beneath the elm and set out on foot for the tourney grounds. Let's see. It in normal times is a commons for the folk, for the folk of Ashford across the river, but now it was transformed. A second town had sprung up overnight, a town of silk instead of stone, larger and fairer than its elder sister. Lovely. There's jugglers, puppeteers, and whores, as well as whores and cut purses. Dunk kept a wary hand on his coin. He smelled sausages. He bought a sausage with a copper from his pouch and a horn of ale to wash it down. He watched a painted wooden knight battle a painted wooden dragon. The puppeteer who worked the dragon was good to watch too. A tall drink of water with olive skin and black hair of Dorn. She was slim as a lance, with no breasts to speak of, but Dunk liked her face and the way her fingers made the dragon snap and slither at the end of its strings. He would have tossed the girl a copy. He would have tossed the girl a copper if he'd had one to spare. But just now, he needed every coin. We'll hear more about her later. Let's see. There's armorers. Lovely. Swordmaker. The man he needed was all the way at the end. A shirt of fine chainmail and a pair of lobstered steel gauntlets displayed on a table before him. Dunk inspected them closely. "You do good work. You do good work," he said. So I'm having trouble getting the voice of Dunk down because Dunk is big, right? His voice is deep, but he's also not confident and not terribly clever either. He's a scrappy fighter, but he's not the sharpest lance in the tourney. He is sort of like, I guess you would describe him as street smart, right? He knows a lot of things that Egg doesn't, but he also doesn't know a lot of things. And the major thing he lacks is confidence, right? He is not certain of himself. He blushes and he rambles and he blusters and he trips over his words because he's so nervous sometimes. So maybe we give him a little bit of a shake, right? You do good work, he said. None better. A stumpy man, the smith was no more than 5 feet tall, yet wide as Dunk about the chest and arms. He had a black beard, huge hands, and no trace of humility. I need armor for the tourney, Dunk told him. A suit of good mail with gorget greaves and great helm. The old man's half helm would fit his head, but he wanted more protection for his face than a nasal bar alone would provide. The armorer looked him up and down. You're a big one, but I've armored bigger. He came out from behind the table. Kneel, I want to measure those shoulders. Aye, that thick neck of yours, too. Dunk knelt. The armorer laid it. All right, lift your arm. No, the right one. Yep. He's measuring him. Yep. I got pieces in my wagon that might do for you. Nothing prettied up with gold or silver, mind you, but just good steel, plain and strong. I make helms that look like helms, not winged pigs or queer foreign fruits. But mine will serve you better if you take a lance in the face. That's all I want. How much? 800 stags. I'm feeling kindly. 800? It was more than he'd expected. I could trade you some old armor made for a smaller man, a half helm, a mail hauberk. Steely Pate sells only his own work, the man declared, but it might be that I can make use of the metal if it's not too rusted. I'll take it and armor you for 600. Dunk could beseech, yes. Dunk could beseech Pate to give him the armor on trust, but he knew what sort of answer that would get. He had traveled with the old man long enough to learn that merchants were notoriously mistrustful of hedge knights, some of whom were little better than robbers. I'll give you 2 silvers now, and the armor and the rest of the coin on the morrow. The armorer studied him for a moment. 2 silvers buys you a day. After that, I sell my work to the next man. Lovely. You'll get it all. I mean to be champion here. Do you? Pate bit one of the coins. And these others, I suppose they just came to cheer you on. And then there's a bit of a cut. Let's see, what else do we have? God, this story's so good. So Dunk is getting ready for the tourney. As we continue, yep. Ashford was ablaze with torchlight. So he's thinking to himself, victory, only one victory is what I need, right? Let's see. Even so, the old man would never have hoped for it. Sir Arlen had not ridden in a tilt since the day he had been unhorsed by the Prince of Dragonstone in a tourney at Storm's End many years before. It's not every man who can boast that he broke 7 lances against the finest knight in the 7 kingdoms, he would say. I could never hope to do better, so why should I try? Dunk suspected that Sir Arlen's age had more to do with it than the Prince of Dragonstone, but he never dared say as much. Let's see. He was moving through a patch of weed, chewing over his chances, when he saw the flicker of firelight through the bushes. Yes, he sees something in his camp. He burst out roaring and cursing, only to jerk to a sudden halt at the sight of the boy beside the campfire. You? He lowered the sword. What are you doing here? Cooking a fish, said the bald boy. You want some? I meant, how did you get here? Did you steal a horse? I rode in the back of a cart with a man who was bringing some lambs to the castle for my Lord of Ashford's table. Well, you'd best see if he's gone yet or find another cart. I won't have you here. You can't make me go, said the boy, impertinent. I've had enough of that inn. I'll have no more insolence from you, Dunk warned. I should throw you off my horse right now and take you home. You'd need to ride all the way to King's Landing. You'd miss the tourney. King's Landing? For a moment, Dunk wondered if he was being mocked, but the boy had no way of knowing that he had been born in King's Landing as well. Another wretch from Flea Bottom, he supposed. And who can blame him for wanting out of that place? He felt foolish standing there with a sword in hand over an 8-year-old orphan. He sheathed it, glowering so the boy would see that... He sheathed it, glowering so the boy would see that he would suffer no nonsense. I ought to give him a good beating at least, he thought, but the child looked so pitiful he could not bring himself to hit him. He glanced around the camp. The fire was burning merrily within a neat circle of rocks. The horses had been brushed and the clothes were hanging from the elm, drying above the flames. What are those doing there? I washed them, the boy said, and I groomed the horses, made the fire, and caught this fish. I would have raised your pavilion, but I couldn't find one. Dunk waves his hand and says, There's my pavilion. And the boy says, That's a tree. I'm taking a drink. I love this story so much. So it's, hang on. Oh. Vile. I love this story. It's so much fun. Most of George Martin's work, whether it's in A Song of Ice and Fire or not, is very serious, right? It is dealing with cosmic problems much of the time, and much of the rest of the time it is dealing with extremely serious subject matter. But Dunk and Egg is hilarious. Dunk waves and he's like, This is my pavilion. Look at this elm that I'm standing on, these beautiful trees, this lovely ground. And Egg goes, That's a tree. All right, Dunk says, It's all the pavilion a true knight needs. I would sooner sleep under the stars than in some smoky tent. What if it rains? The tree will shelter me. Come on, Tom, get your line delivery for Dunk down. How are we doing Dunk's line delivery? You got 2 more books to do after this, if people enjoy this one. The tree will shelter me. Maybe he's Ed from Ed and Eddie. The tree will shelter me. The tree will shelter me. Maybe he's like Spacey. The tree will shelter me. Trees leak. Dunk laughed. So they do. Well, if truth be told, I lack the coin for a pavilion. And you'd best turn that fish, or it'll be burned on the bottom and raw on the top. You'd never make a kitchen boy. I would if I wanted, the boy said, but he turned the fish. What happened to your hair? The maester shaved it off. Suddenly self-conscious, the boy pulled the hood up of his dark brown cloak, covering his head. Dunk had heard that they did that sometimes, to treat lice or rootworms or certain sicknesses. Are you ill? No, said the boy. What's your name? Dunk, he said. The wretched boy laughed aloud, as if that was the funniest thing he had ever heard. Dunk, he said. Sir Dunk? That's no name for a knight. Is it short for Duncan? Was it? The old man had just called him Dunk for as long as he could recall, and he did not remember much of his life before. Duncan. Yes, he said. Sir Duncan of... Dunk had no other name, nor any house. Sir Arlen had found him living in the wild, in the stews and the alleys of Flea Bottom. He had never known his mother or father. What was he to say? Sir Duncan of Flea Bottom? Didn't sound very lightly. He could take Pennytree, but what if they asked him where it was? Dunk had never been to Pennytree, nor had the old man talked about it much. He frowned for a moment and then blurted out, Sir Duncan the Tall. He was tall, no one could dispute that, and it sounded... Ooh, there's an interesting word. Puissant. Puissant. What is this? Having great power or influence. Let's see if we can get it to play. Puissant. Puissant? Puissant. Isn't that what you call someone who's being annoying? A little puissant? I'm taking a drink. Fight me. Yeah. Clink. Oh, no. Oh, and it sounded puissant, though the little sneak did not seem to think so. I've never heard of any Sir Duncan the Tall. Do you know every knight in the 7 kingdoms, then? The boy looked at him boldly. The good ones. Whoa! I'm as good as any. After the tourney, they'll all know it. Do you have a name, you little thief? The boy hesitated. Egg, he said. Dunk did not laugh. His head does look like an egg. Small boys can be cruel, and grown men as well. Egg, he said. I should beat you bloody and send you on your way, but the truth is I have no pavilion, and I have no squire either. If you'll swear to do as you're told, I'll let you serve me for the tourney. After that, well, we'll see. If I decide you're worth your keep, you'll have clothes on your back and food in your belly. The clothes might be rough spun, and the food might be salt beef and salt fish, and maybe some venison from time to time. When there are no foresters about, but you won't go hungry. And I promise not to beat you except when you deserve it. Egg smiled. Yes, my lord. Yes, my lord. Sir, Dunk corrected. I'm only a hedge knight. He wondered if the old man was looking down on him. I will teach him the arts of battle, the same as you taught me, sir. He seems a likely lad, though one day he'll make a knight. The fish was still a little raw on the inside when they ate it, and the boy had not removed all the bones, but it still tasted a world better than hard salt beef. Egg soon fell asleep beside a dying fire. Dunk lay on his back nearby, his big hands behind his head. I'm having such a good time. I don't care if nobody listens to this. I don't care. I fully don't care. Let's see. Hang on. We're 41 minutes into the recording, all right? If you're still watching, I would like you to comment your favorite camping food. I am a fan of nature, what are they called? Cliff bars. I love Cliff bars. I love taking Cliff bars into the woods. You comment that down below, and I will respond with the words Cliff bars. Okay. All right. Egg falls asleep next to him. Stars were everywhere. Thousands and thousands of them. One fell as he was watching, a bright green streak that flashed across and then was gone. A falling star brings luck to those who see it, Dunk thought. But the rest of them were all in their pavilions by now, staring up at silk instead of sky. So the luck is mine alone. It's so beautiful. The writing is so good. Okay. There's a cock crowing in the morning. Nice. Egg was still there, curled up under the old man's second best cloak. Up, says Dunk. There's work to do. Help me saddle Sweetfoot. What about breakfast? He said, there's salt beef after we're done. And Egg says, I'd sooner eat the horse, sir. You'll eat my fist if you don't do as you'll eat my fist if you don't do as you're told. Get the brushes. They're in the saddle sack. Yes, that one. Together they brushed out the palfrey. Yep, they're getting ready to go. Egg was a good word. I expect I'll be gone most of the day. You stay here and keep the camp in order and make sure no thieves come out. Can I have a sword to run them off with? He had dark blue eyes, Dunk saw. Very dark, almost purple. Hint, hint. His bald head made them seem huge somehow. He says, no, a knife's enough. Rob me and run off, and I'll hunt you down. I swear I will, with dogs. You don't have any dogs, Egg pointed out. I'll get some, said Dunk, just for you. And then he rides away. And then he thinks this beautiful thing, right? This beautiful thing. I love, Dunk's introspection is the most beautiful writing in all of A Song of Ice and Fire. This is why these are my favorite things in the series, right? Listen to this. I'm a great fool to trust the boy so far, but it's no more trust than the old man had for me, he reflected. The mother must have sent him so that I could repay my debt. It's so cute and gorgeous, and they're friends, and it's nice, and I like it. Okay, he crossed the field. He hears the ring of hammers, right? Dunk could smell wood smoke and bacon. North to the river. Yes. When he was smaller, he used to wonder what it would be like to live in such a place. He's looking up at the castle. He might know someday, and Egg might too. Stranger things happened every day. Ashford Castle was a stone structure built in the shape of a triangle with round towers rising 30 feet tall at each point, and thick crenellated... Man, I even paused on that word. so that I could try to pronounce it correctly. Crenellated. Crenellated, a great word, meaning covered in crenellations. Those little, like divotty fences on the tops of castle towers. Let's see, we've got orange battles flying, the white sun and chevron, sigil of its lord. We have men-at-arms in orange and white livery, joking with a pretty milkmaid. He reined up in front of a bearded man he took for the captain and asked for the master of the games. He said, "It's Plumber you want." "He's steward here, I'll show you." Yes, perfect. He's being led in. "Come to enter your name for the lists," the captain asked as they climbed. "It's my own name I'll be putting in." "Come to enter your master's name for the lists," he asks, and he says, "It's my own name I'll be putting in." "Is it now?" Was the man smirking? Dunk was not certain. "That door there. I'll leave you to it and get back to my post." Right, this is another of the themes of underestimation based on what a person looks like. When Dunk pushed open the door, the steward was sitting at the trestle table. Yup. Dunk pulled shut the door. He asked if he's the steward. "I came to enter the lists. My lord's tourney is a contest for knights. Are you a knight?" Dunk nodded, wondering if his ears were red. Now, I'm going to take a drink right now. Right? Ask me why I'm going to take a drink. Tell them why you're taking a drink. Ask me in the comments why I'm taking a drink, and I'll answer you. All right? I'll wait for you to type it out. Go ahead. Go ahead. Type it out. Tom, why are you taking a drink? Tom, why are you taking a drink right now? I am taking a drink. Oh. Oh, no. I just breathed Kentucky juice. Tom is taking a drink because what he's doing is actually quite dangerous. He is signing up for a tournament as a knight when he has no actual credentials. We'll learn in a few minutes that Sir Arlen, at the very least, and it is strictly speaking ambiguous, but it is never stated explicitly when or how Sir Arlen knighted him. And it appears that Sir Arlen never knighted him. He is not a real knight. He is still a squire. He is a squire for a knight who is dead. And he is by the simple fact of lying about that, putting himself in a fair amount of danger. But we'll come back to that. The steward says, "A knight with a name, are you?" He says, "Sir Duncan the Tall." I'm sorry, he says, "Dunk," and then, why had he said that? Sir Duncan the Tall." "And where might you be from, Sir Duncan the Tall?" "Every place," he says. "I was squire to Sir Arlen of Pennytree since I was 5 or 6. This is his shield. He was coming for the tourney. He caught a chill and died, so I came in his stead. He knighted me before he passed with his own sword." Dunk drew the long sword and laid it on the scarred wooden table between them. The master of the list gave the blade no more than a glance. "A sword it is, for a certainty. I've never heard of this Arlen of Pennytree, however. You were a squire, you say?" He always said he meant for me to be a knight, as he was. When he was dying, he called for his longsword and made me kneel. He touched me once on my right shoulder and once on my left and said some words, and when I got up, he said I was a knight." I love this. The man plumber rubbed his nose and said, "Humph." HMPH. Love it. All right, I'm sorry, HMPF. Slight distinction. "Any knight can make a knight, it's true, though it is more customary to stand vigil and be anointed by a septon before taking your vows. Were there any witnesses to your dubbing?" Only a robin up in a thorn tree. I heard it as the old man was saying his dying words. He charged me to be a good knight and true, to obey the 7 gods, defend the weak and the innocent, serve my lord faithfully, and defend the realm with all my might, and I swore that I would." That is the essence of who Dunk is, right? He is trying to embody this ideal that he sees of what a knight is. But he's not a knight. He's not a knight. He's not a knight. You ready for this comparison? He's not a knight any more than Brienne of Tarth is. He's not a knight any more than Sandor Clegane is. He's not a knight. But somehow, as we'll see, he is the knightliest individual in this story. No doubt. Plumber did not. No doubt, said Plumber. Plumber did not deign to call him sir, Dunk could not help but notice. I shall need to consult with Lord Ashford. Will you or your late master be known to any of the good knights here assembled? Dunk thought a moment. There was a pavilion flying the banner of House Dundarian, the black and purple lightning. That would be Sir Manfred of that house. Sir Arlen served his lord father in Dorne 3 years past. Sir Manfred might remember me. I would advise you speak to him. If he will vouch for you, bring him here with you on the morrow at this same time. As you say, my lord. He started for the door. Sir Duncan, the steward called after him. Dunk turned back. You are aware, the man said, that those vanquished in tourney forfeit their arms, armor, and horse to the victors, and must needs ransom them back? I know. And do you have coin to pay such ransom? Now he knew his ears were red. I won't have need of coin, he said, praying it was true. All I need is one victory. If I win my first tilt, I'll have the loser's armor and horse, or his gold, and I can stand a loss myself. He walked slowly down the steps, reluctant to get on with what he must do next. In the yard, he collared one of the stable boys. I must speak with Lord Ashford's master of horse. I'll find him for you. It was cool and dim in the stables. There was an unruly gray stallion. I'd seen him with his last... Dunk had often seen him spend his last... Oh, yes. He is patting Sweetfoot because he is considering what to do, right? You're a good girl, aren't you? He murmured. The old man had always said that a knight should never love a horse, since more than a few were likely to die underneath him. But he never heeded his own counsel either. Dunk had often seen him spend his last copper on an apple for Old Chestnut or some oats for Sweetfoot and Thunder. The palfrey had been Sir Arlen's riding horse, and she had borne him tirelessly over thousands and thousands of miles, all up and down the Seven Kingdoms. Dunk felt as though he were betraying an old friend, but what choice did he have? Chestnut was too old to be worth much of anything, and Thunder must carry him in the lists. Yes. Can't you see the... Oh, yes, of course. Some time passed before the master of horse deigned to appear. As he waited, Dunk heard a blare of trumpets from the walls and a voice in the yard. Curious, he led Sweetfoot to the stable door to see what was happening. A large party of knights and mounted archers poured through the gates, 100 men at least, riding some of the most splendid horses that Dunk had ever seen. Some great lord had come. He grabbed the arm of a stable boy as he ran past. Who are they? The boy looked at him queerly. Can't you see the banners? He wrenched free and hurried off. The banners? As Dunk turned his head, a gust of wind lifted the black silk pennon atop the tall staff, and the fierce three-headed dragon of House Targaryen spread its wings, breathing scarlet fire. The banner-bearer was a tall knight in white scale armor chased with gold, a pure white cloak streaming from his shoulders. 2 of the other riders were armored in white from head to heel as well, Kingsguard knights with the royal banner. Small wonder Lord Ashford and his sons came hurrying out of the doors of the keep, and the fair maid, too, a short girl with yellow hair and a round pink face. She does not seem so fair to me, thought Dunk. The puppet girl was prettier. Boy, let go of that nag and see to my horse. Oh, I'm sorry. Boy, let go of that nag and see to my horse. A rider had dismounted in front of the stables. He's talking to me, Dunk realized. I'm not a stable boy, my lord. Not clever enough? The speaker wore a black cloak bordered in scarlet satin, but underneath was raiment of bright flame, all reds and yellows and golds. Slim and straight as a dirk, though only of middling height, he was near Dunk's own age. Curls of silver gold hair framed a face sculpted and imperious, high brow and sharp cheekbones, straight nose, pale, smooth skin without blemish. His eyes were a deep violet color. If you cannot manage a horse, fetch me some wine and a pretty wench. My lord, pardons, I'm no serving man either. I have the honor to be a knight. Knighthood has fallen on sad days, said the princeling. But then one of the stable boys came rushing up, and he turned away to hand in the reins of his palfrey, a splendid blood bay. Dunk was forgotten in an instant. Relieved, he sank back inside the stable to wait for the master of horse. He felt ill at ease around the lords in their pavilions, and he had no business speaking to princes. Yes. Valar was known as the younger prince. Mataris, the even younger prince. Prince blah blah blah. Good Darren had grown force. We're just doing family tree stuff now. Yep, so the prince, who we will meet again later, has gone into the castle. You, man, you asked me. Lord Ashford's master of horse had a red face made redder by his orange livery and a brusque manner of speaking. What is it? I have no time for. I want to sell this palfrey. She's a good horse, sure afoot. I have no time. I tell you. My lord of Ashford has no need of such. Take her to town. Yep. Maybe they'll give you a silver or 3. Thank you, my lord, said Dunk before he could go. My lord, has the king come? The master of horse laughed at him. No, thank the gods. This infestation of princes is trial enough. Where am I going to find the stalls for all these animals? And fodder. He strode off, shouting at the stable boys. Yep, he escorted the guests. Yes. By the time Dunk left the stable, Lord Ashford had escorted his princely guests into the hail, but 2 of the Kingsguard knights in their white armor and snowy cloaks still lingered in the yard, talking with the captain of the guard. My lords, I am Sir Duncan the Tall. He meets, well met, Sir Duncan. I am Sir Roland Craighall. This is my sworn brother, Sir Donald of Duskendale. Yep. Sevian champions of the Kingsguard. Have you come to enter the lists? It would not be fitting for us to ride against those we are sworn to protect, answered Sir Donald, red of hair and beard. Prince Valar has the honor to be one of Lady Ashford's champions, explained Sir Roland, and 2 of his cousins mean to challenge. The rest of us have only come to watch. Yep. The 3 princelings, he pondered. Valar. Dunk did not know their father's fabled prowess with lance and sword. He might have inherited. Yup. About the other Targaryen princes, he knew even less. What will I do if I have to ride against a prince? Will I even be allowed to challenge one so highborn? He did not know the answer. The old man had often said he was thick as a castle wall, and just now he felt it. Dunk the Lunk, thick as a castle wall. Let's see. Yep, he is selling Sweetfoot. 700. They settled at 750 silver stags. As Henley left to stroke the coin, he pats Sweetfoot and told her to be brave. If I win, I'll come back and buy you again, I promise. He had no doubt that all the palfrey's flaws would vanish in the intervening days, and she would be worth twice as much as she was today. Stableman gave him 3 gold pieces and the rest in silver. Dunk bit one of the gold coins and smiled. He'd never tasted gold before, nor handled it. Dragons, men called these coins, since they were stamped with the head of since they were stamped with the 3-headed dragon of House Targaryen on one side. The other bore the likeness of a king. 2 of the coins Henley had given him had King Daeron's face. The third was older, well worn, and showed a different man. His name was there under his head, but Dunk could not read the letters. Gold had been shaved off his edges too, he saw. He pointed this out to Henley, and loudly. The stableman grumbled, but handed over another few silvers and a fistful of coppers to make up the weight. Dunk handed him a few coppers to take right back and nodded at Sweetfoot. That's for her. See, she gets some oats tonight. Aye, and an apple too. Yep, he set on foot. The heft of all the coin in his pouch made him feel queer. The old man had never trusted him with more than a coin or 2 at a time. What will I do when it's gone? I could live a year with all this money, and what would I do when it's gone? Sell thunder? That road ended in beggary or outlawry. This chance will never come again. I must risk all. Yup. He's passing the puppeteers. Dunk stopped to watch the wooden dragon get slain, and the puppet knight cut its head off, and red sawdust spilled out onto the field. He laughed aloud and threw the girl 2 coppers. One for last night, he called. She caught the coins and threw him back a smile as sweet as any he had ever seen. Oh, he's so sweet. He says, is it me she smiles at, or the coins? Duck had never been with a girl, and they made him nervous. Once 3 years passed, when the old man's purse was full after half a year in the service of blind Lord Florent, he'd told Dunk the time had come to take him to a brothel and make him a man. He'd been drunk, though, and when he was sober, he did not remember. Dunk had been too embarrassed to remind him. He was not certain he wanted a whore anyway. If he could not have a high-born maiden like a proper knight, he wanted one who at least liked him more than his silver. He is such a good character. Oh my God, I love this character so much. He said, will you drink a horn of ale? He asked the puppet girl as she was scooping the sawdust blood back in her dragon. With me, I mean? Or a sausage? I had a sausage last night, and it was good. They're made with pork, I think. I thank you, my lord, but we have another show. The girl rose and ran off to a fierce, fat Dornish woman who worked the puppet knight while Dunk stood there feeling stupid. Am I drinking? Am I drinking for Dunk? Oh. He asked out a girl and she's like, I gotta go. I'm working. No, I'll save the Tanzel drink for another scene a little later on. He liked the way she ran, a pretty girl and tall. I would not have to kneel to kiss her. He knew how to kiss. A tavern girl had showed him one night in Lannisport a year ago, but she'd been so short that she had to sit on the table to reach his lips. The memory made his ears burn. What a great fool he was. It was jousting he should be thinking about, not kissing. He's so sweet. Lord Ashford's carpenters were whitewashing the waist-high wooden barriers. Yup. He watched them work. Three-tiered viewing stand, absolutely. For Lord Ashford, the fair maid, and the visiting princes, there's 4 high-backed chairs. Eastern edge of the meadow, there's a dozen knights were tilting. He sees Lord Cairn of the Marches and the Brood of Bracken. I do not have as good a seat as any of them, he thought uneasily. Elsewhere, men were training afoot. Yep. I wonder, how do you train afoot, I wonder? Do feet learn well? An interesting question. Stocky youth trying to hold back. Oh, yes, okay. Dunk watched a stocky youth try to hold off a muscular knight who seemed lithe and quick as a mountain cat. Both had the red apple of the Fossaways painted on their shields, but the younger man's was soon hacked and chipped to pieces. Here's an apple that's not ripe yet. And I assume that he, turns and, waits for everyone else to laugh. Here's an apple who's not ripe yet. The older said as he slammed the other's helm. The younger Fossaway was bruised and bloody by the time he yielded, but his foe was hardly winded. He raised his visor, looked about, and saw Dunk, and said, You there? Yes, you, the big one. Knight of the Winged Chalice. Is that a longsword you wear? Yup. Sir Stephen Fossaway challenges him to a sparring match. And the beaten Fossaway on the ground says, Do it. I may not be right, but my cousin is rotten to the core. Knock the seeds out of him. I love a good apple joke. Dunk shook his head. Why were these lordlings inviting him into their quarrel? He wanted no part of it. I thank you, sir, but I have matters to attend to. He was uncomfortable carrying so much coin. The sooner he paid Steely Pate and got his armor, the happier he would be. Sir Stephen looked after him scornfully. The Hedge Knight has matters to attend to. And he goes and challenges another individual. So those are the Fossaways, the Fossaway cousins. Dunk stalks away. Arlen had taught him as best he could, but the old man had never been the greatest of knights when he was young. Great knights did not live their lives in hedges or die by the side of a muddy road. That will not happen to me, Dunk vowed. I will show them I can be more than a hedge knight, right? And that is the question posed by this book. He says, I will be more than a hedge knight. But as a hedge knight, he is already more than Sir Stephen, who he was just watching kick the shit out of out of his little cousin, right? He's beating the shit out of him, right? He is a better knight than Sir Uthor, who we'll meet later. He's certainly a better knight than Aerion Brightflame, that's for sure. He is more than they are. So the question posed by this book and this series is, does he need to be more? I like this series. Sir Duncan, the younger Fossaway, hurried to catch up with him. I should not have urged you to try my cousin. I was angry with his arrogance, and you're big. You're big, you're so large, and I thought it was wrong of me, and I'm sorry. You wear no armor, he would have broken your hand if he could, or a knee. He likes to batter men in the training yard, so they would be bruised and vulnerable later should he meet them in the lists. He said, No, I did not break you. No, but I'm his own blood, though his is the senior branch of the apple tree, as he never ceases to remind me. I am Raymond Fossaway. So we have Raymond and Stephen Fossaway. His cousin will ride in the tournament. His cousin has promised to knight him, Sir Raymond, the young Squire Raymond, but keeps on insisting that he is, quote, not ripe yet. You have the look of a challenger, it seems to me. Whose shield do you mean to strike? It makes no difference, said Dunk. That was what you're supposed to say, though it made all the difference in the world. I will not enter the lists until the 3rd day. And by then some of the champions will have fallen. Well, may the warrior smile on you, yes. And
if he is only a squire, what business do I have being a knight? Dunk thinks. One of us is a fool. Dunk's pouch is clinking. There's a dozen different forms. A tourney might follow, so we're learning about tourneys. Lord Ashford is staging this tourney to celebrate his daughter's 13th name day. The fair maid would sit by her father's side as the reigning queen of love and beauty. I'm sorry, I thought this was celebrating a wedding. Maybe it's White Walls that's celebrating a wedding, and this tourney is just a birthday. He stares at the grassy lists, and he wonders what he is, right? So he's thinking about some of the famous knights in history. The old man had lived nigh on 60 years and had never been a champion in his life. It is not too much to hope for if the gods are good. He thought back on all the songs he'd heard, songs of the blind Simeon Star Eyes, and the noble Serwyn of the Mirror Shield, of Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight, Sir Riam Redwine, and Florian the Fool. They had won victories against foes far more terrible than any he would face, but they were great heroes, brave men of noble birth, except for Florian. What am I? Dunk of Flea Bottom or Sir Duncan the Tall? He supposed he would learn the truth of that soon enough. Let's see. He's back at the campsite. Did you get a good price for the palfrey, he says. He says, how did you know? Dunk says, how did you know I sold her? And Egg says, you rode off and walked back. And if robbers had stolen her, you'd be more angry than you are. He says, I got enough for this. He took out the new armor to show the boy. If you're ever to be a knight, you'll need to know good steel from bad. And look here, this is fine work. This mail is double chain, each link bound to two others. It gives more protection than single chain. And the helm, Pate has rounded the top. See how it curves? A sword or an axe will slide off, where they might bite through a flat-topped helm. Dunk lowered the great helm over his head. How does it look? There's no visor, Egg pointed out. There's air holes. Visors are points of weakness. Open parentheses. Steely Pate had said as much. Close parentheses. If you knew how many knights had taken an arrow in the eye as they lifted their visor for a suck of cool air, you'd never want one. He told Dunk. He had told Dunk. There's no crest either. It's just plain. Plain is fine for the likes of me. See how bright the steel is? It will be your task to keep it that way. Do you know how to scour mail? The boy says, in a barrel of sand, but you don't have a barrel. Did you buy a pavilion too, sir? I didn't get that good of a price. The boy is too bold for his own good, thinks Dunk. I ought to beat that out of him. He would not. He knew he would not, though. He liked the boldness. He needed to be bolder himself. Yeah, I love these two. They're so good. My squire is braver than I am, and more clever. You did well here, Egg, Dunk told him. On the morrow, you'll come with me, have a look at the tourney grounds. We'll buy oats for the horses and fresh bread for ourselves, maybe a bit of cheese as well. They were selling good cheese in one of the stalls. I won't need to go into the castle, will I? Why not? One day I mean to live in a castle. I hope to win a place above the salt before I'm done. The boy said nothing. Perhaps he fears to enter a lord's hall, Dunk reflected. That's no more than might be expected. He will grow out of it in time. He went back to admiring his armor and wondering how long he would wear it. So Dunk is imagining the life that Egg already has. And Egg is attempting to escape that same life. And I'm gonna take a drink, right? And you know what's wonderful about this silly little format that I do? How long have we been recording? Ooh, an hour and 8 minutes. We are 22 pages in, and it is a 66-page book. Yeah, I'm gonna take this drink for me and for Sir Duncan the Tall. This is a stupid thing that both Dunk and Egg are kind of doing, right? They are, first off, Dunk, this is another clue as to who Egg is. And I haven't spoiled it yet, but Egg is an important person. And Dunk probably should have noticed that by now. But Dunk hasn't, right? He has never imagined that a person who would be in the position that Egg is in would want to be out of that position. It's a very interesting dynamic that the two of these people have. He's talking to Sir Manfred. He asks Sir Manfred if he will vouch for him as he goes to join the lists. This was his sigil, and Sir Manfred Dondarrion says, "My lord father took 800 knights and nearly 4,000 foot into the mountains. I cannot be expected to remember every one of them, nor what shields they carry. It may be that you were there with us, but," and Sir Manfred shrugs. Dunk was struck speechless for an instant. "The old man took a wound in your father's service. How can you have forgotten him?" That was in his head, but out loud he says, "They will not allow me to challenge unless some knight or lord will vouch for me." "And what is that to me?" said Sir Manfred. "I have given you enough of my time, sir." But Sir Manfred does call Dunk sir, which is interesting. Men see what they mean to see. Men see what they wish to see, what they imagine will be there. Yes, he's wondering what to do. He was the first Lord Dondarrion, so to you, blah, 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 blah. He recounts the story of Lord Dondarrion, which is cool. If Dunk thought the tale would impress Sir Manfred, he could not have been more wrong. Every potboy and groom who has ever served my father hears that story sooner or later. Knowing it does not make you a knight. Be gone with you, sir. It was with a leaden heart that he returned to Ashford Castle, wondering what he might say to Plummer that would grant him the right of challenge. The steward was not in the turret chamber, however. A guard told him he might be found in the great hall. "Shall I wait here?" Dunk asked. How long will he be?" "How should I know? Do what you please." So Dunk goes into the great hall. There's a big tapestry with fruits and flowers, and then he starts to overhear something. Quote, "More concerned if they were your sons, I'll wager," an angry man was saying as Dunk approached. His straight hair and square-cut beard were so fair they seemed white in the dimness of the hall, but as he got closer he saw that they were in truth a pale silvery color, touched with gold. "Dayron has done this before," another replied. Plummer was standing so close as to block Dunk's view of the speaker. You should never have commanded him to enter the lists. He belongs on a tourney field no more than Ares does, or Rhaegal." "By which you mean he'd sooner ride a whore than a horse," the first man said. Thickly built and powerful, the prince, he surely was a prince, wore a leather brigandine covered with silver studs beneath a heavy black cloak trimmed with ermine. Pox scars marked his cheeks, only partly concealed by his silvery beard. "I do not need to be reminded of my son's failings, brother. He is only 18 years. He can change. He will change. Gods be damned, or I swear I'll see him dead." "Don't be an utter fool. Dayron is what he is, but he is still your blood and mine. I have no doubt Sir Roland will turn him up, and Aegon with him. When the tourney is over, perhaps. Aerion is here. He's a better lance than Dayron in any case, if it is the tourney that concerns you." Dunk could see the speaker now. He was seated in a high seat, a sheaf of parchments in one hand, Lord Ashford hovering at his shoulder. Even seated, he looked to be a head taller than the other, to judge from the long, straight legs stretched out before him. His short-cropped hair was dark and peppered with gray, his strong jaw clean-shaven. His nose looked as though it had been broken more than once. Though he was dressed very plainly in green doublet, brown mantle, and scuffed boots, there was a weight to him, a sense of power and certainty. Clink. We are taking a drink, because Dunk has walked in on a meeting of the royal family. Unwise. Exceedingly unwise. It came to Dunk that he had walked in on something he ought never to have heard. I had best go and come back later when they're done, he decided, but it was already too late. The prince with the silvery beard suddenly took note of him. "Who are you, and what do you mean by bursting in on us?" he demanded harshly. He is the knight that our good steward was expecting," the seated man said, smiling at Dunk in a way that suggested he'd been aware of him the whole time. "You and I are intruders here, brother. Come closer, sir." "You and I are the intruders here, brother. Come closer, sir." Dunk edged forward, uncertain what was expected of him. He looked at Plummer, but got no help there. The pinch-faced steward, who had been so forceful yesterday, stood silent, studying the stones of the floor. My lords," he said, I asked Sir Manfred Dondarrion to vouch for me, so I might enter the list, but he refuses. He says he knows me not. Sir Arlen served him, though, I swear it. I have a sword and shield. Let's see. "A sword and shield do not make you a knight," declared Lord Ashford, a big, bald man with a round, red face. I will give him Plummer has spoken to me of you. Even if we accept these arms, that these arms belong to Sir Arlen of Pennytree, it may well be that you found him dead and stole them, unless you have some better proof of what you say, some writing or... I remember Sir Arlen of Pennytree, the man in the high seat said quietly. He never won a tourney that I know, but he never shamed himself either. At King's Landing 16 years ago, he overthrew Lord Stokeworth and the Bastard of Harrenhal in the melee, and many years before that, at Lannisport, he unhorsed the Grey Lion himself. The lion was not so grey then, to be sure. So we have found some interesting characters. Really the last of the characters to be introduced in this story. We're coming up on halfway through the story now, and this is the last of the characters that need to be introduced. He told me about that many a time, said Dunk. The tall man studied him. You will remember the Grey Lion's name then, I have no doubt. For a moment there was nothing in Dunk's head at all. Man, do I sympathize with that, Duncan. My God, do I identify with that. 1,000 times the old man had told that tale. 1,000 times. The lion, his name. Oh my God. They told me this 500 times, and at the time when I need it, sometimes it pops into my head in the shower, you know? You're trying to remember something, it pops in your head in the shower, pops in your head when you're driving, pops in your head when you're making dinner. You remember this stupid thing that somebody told you 20 years ago, right? But when someone asks you for it, it flutters right away. But he was near despair when suddenly it came. Sir Daemon Lannister, he shouted. The Grey Lion. He's Lord of Casterly Rock now. So he is, said the tall man pleasantly. And he enters the lists on the morrow. He rattled the sheaf of papers in his hand. How can you possibly remember some insignificant hedge knight who chanced to unhorse Daemon Lannister 16 years ago? Said the prince with the silver beard, frowning. I make it a practice. I make it a practice to learn all I can of my foes. Why would you deign to joust with a hedge knight? It was 9 years past at Storm's End. Lord Baratheon made held a hastilude. Let's see. Hastilude is a generic term used in the Middle Ages to refer to many kinds of martial games. Let's see, where did that go? Oh boy, I'm feeling the Kentucky juice now. Let's see, it was 9 years past. Lord Baratheon held a hastilude to celebrate the birth of a grandson. The lots made Sir Arlen my opponent in the first tilt. We broke 4 lances before I finally unhorsed him. 7, insisted Dunk, and that was against the Prince of Dragonstone. I imagined a lengthy silence at this moment. No sooner were the words out than he wanted them back. Dunk the lunk, thick as a castle wall. He could hear the old man chiding, I'm taking a drink. So it was. The prince with the broken nose smiled gently. That's awful. So it was. The prince with the broken nose smiled gently. Tales grow in the telling, I know. Do not think ill of your old master, but it was only 4 lances, I fear. Dunk was grateful that the hall was dim. He knew his ears were red. My lord. No, that's wrong. Your grace. He fell to his knees and lowered his head. As you say, 4. I meant no, I never. The old man, Sir Arlen, he used to say I was thick as a castle wall and slow as an oryx. And as strong as an oryx, by the look of you, said Baelor Breakspear. No harm was done. Rise, sir. Dunk got to his feet, wondering if he should keep his head down or if he was allowed to look a prince in the face. I am speaking with Baelor Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone, Hand of the King, and heir apparent to the Iron Throne of Aegon the Conqueror. What could a hedge knight dare say to such a person? You gave him back his horse and armor and took no ransom, I remember, he stammered. The old Sir Arlen, I mean, he told me you were the soul of chivalry, and that one day the 7 kingdoms would be safe in your hands. Not for many a year still, I pray, Prince Baelor said. I love Baelor Breakspear. I think he is like he's got such pleasant swagger. I love him so much. He's like
It was 4, actually. I love Baelor Breakspear. No, said Dunk, horrified. He almost said, I didn't mean that the king should die, but he stopped himself in time. I'm sorry, my lord. Your grace, I mean. Belatedly, he recalled that the stocky man with the silver beard had addressed Prince Baelor as his brother. He is the blood of the dragon as well. Damn me for a fool. He could only be Prince Mykar, the youngest of King Daeron's 4 sons. Prince Aerys was bookish, Prince Rhaegal mad, meek, and sickly. Neither was likely to cross half the realm to attend a tourney, but Mykar was said to be a redoubtable warrior in his own right, though ever in the shadow of his eldest brother, expositing. He's freaking out. He's making sure to slip some exposition in. You wish to enter the lists, is that it? Asked Prince Baelor. That decision rests with the master of the games, but I see no reason to deny you. The steward inclined his head. Oh, I love him. He's got such swagger. Like, that decision isn't mine, but I can't imagine a reason why it shouldn't be allowed. And then he turns and looks straight in the eye of the person he's talking about. Dunk tried to stammer out his thanks, but Prince Mykar cut him off. Very well, sir. You are grateful. Now be off with you. I also like Prince Mykar. Prince Mykar is also a fun character. You must forgive my noble brother, sir, said Prince Baelor, swaggering. 2 of his sons have gone astray on their way here, and he fears for them. The spring rains have swollen many of the streams, said Dunk. Perhaps the princes are only delayed. I did not come here to take counsel from a Hedge Knight, Prince Mykar declared to his brother. You may go, sir, Prince Baelor told Dunk, not unkindly. Yes, my lord. But before he could get away, the prince called after him. Sir, one more thing. You are not of Sir Arlen's blood? Yes, my lord. I mean, no, I'm not. The prince nodded at the battered shield Dunk carried, the winged chalice upon its face. By law, only a true-born son is entitled to inherit a knight's arms. You must needs find a new device, sir. A sigil of your own. I will, said Dunk. Thank you again, your grace. I will fight bravely, you'll see. As brave as Baelor Breakspear, the old man would often say. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a break, right? He exits. Let's take a little bit of a break and let's talk about this. This is the stage set, right? That is the end of the introductions that we require for this story. Who are our characters? We have Dunk and we have Egg. Dunk is a Hedge Knight who has recently inherited his old knight's armor. We have Egg, a mysterious boy who has kind of appeared out of nowhere and hopped into the service of Dunk. And we have the Targaryen princes, right? We have the Targaryen princes. We have Baelor and Mykar. We also have the generation beneath them. We have Aerion. We've heard tell of Aegon and Daeron, and a number of other Valar we have heard of, and they are all, of course, important. We have met some of the Kingsguard, and they are important. We've also met the 2 Fossaways cousins. They are important. All of this will sort of combine, swirl together, and explode as Sir Duncan looks toward the tourney. Here we go. About halfway through now. The wine sellers and sausage makers were doing a brisk trade, and whores walked brazenly among the stalls and pavilions. Some were pretty enough. One redhead girl in particular, he could not help staring at her breasts and the way they moved. I really liked a line Zach delivered. He says, George Martin sure is hungry before he's horny. You know what, Zach? He's both. Okay. Thought of the silver of the purse. He thought of, she'd like the clink of my coin. He'd never lain with a woman. For all he knew, he might die in his first tilt. He's thinking, like, she might rob me while I slept, and what would I do then? He found Egg at the puppet show, sitting cross-legged on the ground with the hood of his cloak pulled all the way forward to hide his baldness. Reed, he had the hood of his cloak pulled all the way forward to hide.
The boy had been afraid to enter the castle, which is great. Dunk is thinking he does not think himself worthy to mingle with lords and ladies, let alone great princes. It had been the same with him when he was little. The world beyond Flea Bottom had seemed as frightening as it was exciting. Egg needs time, that's all. For the present, it seemed kinder to give the lad a few coppers and let him enjoy himself among the stalls than to drag him unwilling into the castle. The puppeteers are doing Florian and Jonquil. The tall girl held Jonquil's strings. "You are no knight," she was saying. "I know you. You are Florian the Fool." "I am, my lady," the other puppet answered. "As great a fool as ever lived, and as great a knight as well." "A fool and a knight? I have never heard of such a thing." "Sweet lady," said Florian, "all men are fools, and all men are knights, where women are concerned." It was a good show, sad and sweet, and a sprightly sword fight at the end, and a nicely painted giant. Lovely. Dunk collected Egg and went to talk to the tall girl. "My lord," she said, with a sideways glance and a half smile. She was a head shorter than he was, but still taller than any girl he had ever seen. "That was good," Egg enthused. "I liked how you made the move. Jonquil and the dragon and all. I saw a puppet show last year, but they moved all jerky. Yours were much more smooth." "Thank you," she told the boy politely. Your figures are carved nicely. My uncle does the carving. And I do the painting," she says. "Could you paint something for me? I have coin to pay." He slipped the shield off his shoulder and showed it to her. "I need to paint something over the chalice." "What would you have painted?" she asks. So he is... Let's see. Dunk had not considered that. If not the old man's winged chalice, then what? His head was empty. Dunk the lunk, thick as a castle wall. I'm not certain. His ears were turning red, he realized miserably. "You must think me an utter fool." Oh my god, he's so cute. He's so sweet. He's just a bashful he's just a bashful lamb. He's a giant bashful Snorlax. I love him so much. I am taking a drink, though, because it was stupid of him to go up and ask to have his shield painted before he thought of what should be on the shield. It does... it's still terrible. He does give Tanzel a good excuse to deliver a good line. The Kentucky juice is getting to me. Oh, what a good day. "You must think me an utter fool." She smiled. "All men are fools, and all men are knights." Turns to camera, winks. "What color paint do you have?" he said, hoping that might give an idea. "I can mix paints. Make any color you want." Let's see. So Dunk says, "The field should be the color of sunset," he said suddenly. The old man liked sunsets, and the device. "An elm tree," said Egg. "A big elm tree, like the one by the pool, with a brown trunk and green branches." "Yes, that would serve," says Dunk. "An elm tree, but with a shooting star above. Could you do that?" The girl nodded. "Give me the shield and I'll paint it this very night and have it back to you on the morrow." Dunk handed it over. I am called Sir Duncan the Tall." "I'm Tanzel," she laughed. "Tanzel Too Tall, the boys used to call me." "You're not too tall," Dunk blurted out. "You're just right for..." He realized, and then he cuts off, and it says he realized what he'd been about to say, and he blushed furiously. Said Tanzel, cocking her head inquisitively. "Puppets," he finished lamely. I love this book. It's amazing. He's just a big shy idiot. He's a big shy noble idiot. By the way, because I like to rope in other things that are relevant, thematically, Brienne of Tarth follows a lot of the same through lines that Duncan the Tall does. And in fact, Brienne uses one of Dunk's shields. At least it appears to be one of Dunk's shields, or at least it appears to be very similar. Something with a tree and a shooting star. Very interesting. Could be more to that. Might be a theory. Who knows? And now we have a time skip, and we are the next day. It is the first day of the tourney. He's bought a sack full of... Ooh, you ready for a food description? You ready? Here we go. Dunk bought a sack full of foodstuffs, so they were able to break their fast on goose eggs, fried bread, and bacon. But when the food was cooked, he found he had no appetite. Oh, I'm hungry. Yep, he's nervous. He's nervous and he can't eat. Egg chattered all through breakfast, talking of this man and that man and how they might fare. He was not japing me when he said he knew every good knight in the Seven Kingdoms. Let's see. He found it humbling to listen so intently to the words of a scrawny orphan boy, but Egg's knowledge might serve him well should he face one of these men in a tilt. Let's see. It says, yes, Dunk was as good an elbower as any, so he's trying to get a good view. Egg is on his shoulders. Across the field, the viewing stand was filled with highborn lords and ladies. Yep. Of Prince Maekar, he saw no sign, but he recognized Prince Baelor at Lord Ashford's side. Sunlight flashed golden off his shoulder clasp that held his cloak and the slim coronet about his temples. But otherwise, he dressed far more simply than most of the other lords. He does not look a Targaryen, in truth, with that dark hair. Dunk said as much to Egg. It's said he favors his mother, the boy reminded him. She was a Dornish princess. Interesting. Isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting that George Martin would point this out right here? Get that, like, oh man, what would it be? Let's go with, all right, I would like someone to submit this to the theory email, okay? Let's go with, what do you think of, let's see, Martell? Let's go with Oberyn plus Ashara equals John. O plus A equals J. There it is. There it is. Somebody sell that. Okay, here we go. We have the 5 champions. They raise their pavilions at the north ends of the list. That's fine. Beside the orange pavilions, sort of on deep green, the rose of Highgarden, that's Lord Leo Tyrell. I knew that, said Dunk, irritated. The old man I served at Highgarden before you were ever born. The old man and I served at Highgarden before you were ever born. He hardly remembered that year himself, and this is a reminder that Dunk is really not that much older than Egg is. By the way, in the Dunk and Egg show, I imagine that they're going to age both the characters. I bet they're going to be 15 and like 19, but we'll see. That must be Lord Leo. Yep. Leo Longthorn, they call him. I saw him at King's Landing once. He's not one you'll want to challenge, sir. Boy, I do not require your counsel on who to challenge. Yep, 4th pavilion. Yep, they're just looking over the Humphrey Harding. The last pavilion was Prince Valar's. So this is one of the, this is a popular theory, isn't it? That this is the Ashford suitors is the name of this theory. That Sansa's suitors throughout the story appear to line up with the champions of the Ashford tourney. I will leave that as a discussion for another video, but that's a thing. Look it up. You'll find it. It's the Ashford suitors theory, right? So the ones in a row are, hang on, let's see, 5 champions. We have Highgarden, Vale, and Sir Harding. Who are the first 2 here? Lord Ashford's sons, Sir Andro and Robert? Oh, maybe they come in later. Okay, last pavilion is Sir Valar's. He was the king's grandson and son of Baelor Breakspear. That's Prince Valar. When the horns blew to some of the challenge, all 5 of the mage were called forth. Yep. Heralds boomed out the names in a row. Lord Ashford, Prince Baelor, and the fair maid then circled to the north end of the field to select their opponents. The grey line of Casterly Rock struck the shield of Lord Tyrell, while his golden-haired heir, Sir Tybalt Lannister, challenged Lord Ashford's eldest son, Lord Tully of Riverrun. Lord Tully of Riverrun tapped the diamond-patterned shield of Sir Humphrey Harding. Sir Abelar Hightower knocked upon Valar's, and the younger Ashford was called out by Sir Lionel Baratheon, the knight they called the Laughing Storm. Sure. So they're watching the tourney. We're seeing things happen. The champions trot into position. All 10 of the lances. Lord Tully reeled in his saddle, but managed to keep his seats. Comes realized that all 10 lances have a great roar of a. Oh boy, I'm taking a drink because this was a stupid thing to do. Oh, delicious. Oh, it's a splendid omen for the success of the tourney and testament to the skill of the competitors. Blah blah blah. This is tournament porn. Lord of Casterly Rock raised his hand in salute and dismounted, yielding the match. Yup. I must do even better than these. Yup. Dunk is thinking that he has to. It is not enough for me to fight well and lose. I must win at least the first challenge or I lose all. Tybalt Lannister and the Laughing Storm take their place among the champions. He found himself wondering if Valar had inherited a measure of his father's prowess or whether it had just been that he had drawn the weakest opponent. Sure. Yup. Karen Lord of the Marches. It's tournament porn. Sir Gawain of House Swan, Lord of Stonehelm and Cape of Wrath. Funnily enough, in the audiobooks, they always call that Cape Wrath. Cape Wrath. Like I'm wroth. Let's see what else we have in here. Okay, we're talking again. Lord Karen, harper and singer and knight of renown, touched the point of his lance to Lord Tyrell's rose. Sir Joseph thumped on Sir Humphrey Harding's diamonds, and the black and white knight, Sir Gawain Swan, challenged the Black Prince with the White Guardian. Dunk rubbed his chin. Lord Gawain was even older than the old man, and the old man was dead. Egg, who was the least dangerous of these challengers? He asked the boy on his shoulders, who seemed to know so much of these knights. Sir Gawain, said the boy at once, Valar's foe. Prince Valar, he corrected. A squire must keep a courteous tongue, boy. My God. Oh, no. I don't seem to be sobering up. Not, of course, that I would be in any way not sober. This is just Kentucky juice. Okay, tournament porn. I yield your grace, well fought. Prince Valar has won. And Egg complains that it was not. It was not well fought. And Dunk says, be quiet or you can go back to camp. Tournament porn. Okay, so now Valar Targaryen. Okay, get him. It seems to be Lord Karen who was cheering on the harper. Okay, wait, hang on. Who is he cheering on now? Dunk thinks it seemed to be Lord Karen he was cheering on. The harper was playing a different sort of music now, and Lord Leo, driving Lord Leo back and back as steel sang on steel. The crowd seemed almost equally divided between them, so cheers and curses mingled freely in the morning air. Chips of wood and paint were flying off Lord Leo's shield as Lord Pierce's axe knocked the petals off his golden rose one by one until the shield finally shattered and split. But as it did, the axe head hung up for an instant on the wood, and Lord Leo's own axe crashed down on the haft of his foe's weapon, breaking it off not a foot from his hand. He cast aside his broken shield, and suddenly he was the one on attack. Within moments, the Harper Knight was on one knee, singing his surrender. I do love tournament porn, but we're moving through it. Tournament porn, Sir Humphrey Harding and Sir Humphrey Beesbury. Let's see, Sir Humphrey Beesbury, a bold knight in yellow and black stripes with 3 beehives on his shield, splintered no less than 12 lances apiece. In an epic struggle, the small folk soon began calling the Battle of Humphrey. Lovely. Lionel Baratheon also fought several notable matches against lesser foes. He would often break into booming laughter the moment they touched his shield and laugh all the time he was mounting and charging and knocking them from their stirrups. I love Lionel Baratheon. The characters in this story have so much swagger. They're so good. Let's see. Yep. Meanwhile, the young prince sat outside his black pavilion, drinking his silver goblet and rising from time to time to mount his horse and vanquish yet another undistinguished foe. So, we are finding it interesting that Prince Valar keeps on kicking ass. He's beating old men and up-jumped squires, a few lords of high birth and low skill. The truly dangerous men are riding past his shield as though they don't see it. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, stop that. Do you mean to... Egg's legs tightened around Dunk's neck. Stop that, Dunk snapped, yanking them apart. Do you mean to choke me? Prince Aerion Brightflame, a herald called, of the Red Keep of King's Landing, son of Maekar, Prince of Summerhall of House Targaryen, grandson to Daeron the Good, the second of his name, King of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms. This is the last player in this game. Aerion bore a three-headed dragon on his shield, but it was rendered in colors much more vivid than Valar's. One head was orange, one yellow, one red, and the flames they breathed had a sheen of gold leaf. His surcoat was a swirl of smoke and fire. His blackened helm was surmounted by a crest of red flames. Again, he's got so much swagger, so much drip. I love this character. He's a piece of shit, but I love this character. Let's see. After a pause to dip his lance to Prince Baelor, a pause so brief that it was almost perfunctory, he galloped to the north and Prince Baelor, what did I say? Past Lord Leo's pavilion and the Laughing Storm. Slowly he's approaching... The prince rose and stood stiffly beside his shield, and for a moment Dunk was certain that Aerion meant to strike him, but he laughed and trotted past, and banged his point hard against Sir Humphrey Harding. Come out, little knight," he sang in a clear, loud voice. "It's time you faced the dragon." This is the same knight, this is the same prince, rather, that Dunk met on his way into... No, I'm sorry, on his way out of Ashford Castle the first time. Sir Humphrey broke slowly, building speed, but his foe raked the charger hard with both spurs, coming hard. Egg's legs tightened again. "Kill him!" he shouted suddenly. "Kill him! He's right there! Kill him, kill him, kill him!" Dunk was not certain of which of the knights he was shouting to. Prince Aerion's lance, gold-tipped and painted in stripes of red, orange, and yellow, swung down across the barrier. Low, thought Dunk, too low, the moment he saw it. He'll miss the rider and strike Sir Humphrey's horse. He needs to bring it up. Then, with dawning horror, he began to suspect that Aerion intended no such thing. He cannot mean to... At the last possible instant, Sir Humphrey's stallion reared away from the oncoming point, eyes rolling in terror, but too late. Aerion's lance took the animal just above the armor that protected its breastbone and exploded at the back of its neck in a gout of bright blood. Screaming, the horse crashed sideways, knocking the wooden barrier to pieces as he fell. Sir Humphrey tried to leap free, but a foot caught in the stirrups, and they heard a shriek as his leg was crushed between the splintered fence and the sprawling horse. All of Ashford Meadow was shouting. Men ran onto the field to extricate Sir Humphrey, but the stallion, dying in agony, kicked at them as they approached. Aerion, having raced blithely around the carnage to the end of the lists, wheeled his horse and came galloping back. He was shouting too, though Dunk could not make out the words, over the almost human screams of the dying horse. Vaulting from the saddle, Aerion drew his sword and advanced on his fallen foe. His own squires and one of Sir Humphrey's had to pull him back. Egg squirmed at Dunk's shoulders. "Let me down," said the boy. "The poor horse, let me down." So we have learned some things. We've learned some things about Aerion Brightflame, right? We've also learned some things about Egg. Egg screams, "Kill him, kill him." It is clear that this is not directed at Sir Humphrey, because if this was directed at Sir Humphrey, Egg might have been pleased when Aerion took out Sir Humphrey's horse. He is not pleased. He is quite distressed, actually. "I am going to take a drink, because, as Dunk says, as Egg says, it was no mishap. Aerion meant to do it. You saw." And Dunk really should be picking up on some of these clues now. You know, this gets better the more you drink it. I lied. Oh, James. Oh, Mr. James Bayham. Why are we doing this? This is a stupid thing to do. Anyway, I love this book so much. It makes me so happy. This is the best thing in the whole series. Okay, lovely. So they have left the tourney. Dunk says, come on, let's get out of here. Dunk frowned. It had looked that way to him as well, but it was hard to accept that any knight could be so unchivalrous, least of all one whose blood of the dragon. I saw a knight green as summer grass lose control of his lance. I'll hear no more of it. The jousting is done for the day, I think. Let's go. So they bug on out. Dunk wanted to ask if the girl Tenzel had finished painting his shield, but he could see that she was busy. They're doing the puppet show about Nymeria and the warrior queen. Lovely. Sir Duncan, a voice called behind him. And then again, Sir Duncan. Suddenly Dunk remembered that was him. Let's see, I saw you among the small folk, Raymond Fossaway. It's Raymond Fossaway! Yeah! And then he says, the two of you were hard to miss with that kid on your shoulders, standing like 7'3" in the air. This boy is my squire. Egg. And this boy is my squire. Egg, this is Raymond Fossaway. Yep, Raymond Fossaway. And Sir Dunk, and Raymond says, Dunk, why not watch from the viewing gallery? All knights are welcome there. And Dunk says, Dunk kind of ducks it. He says, I would not have wanted any closer view of that last tilt. And Raymond says, nor I. Lord Ashford declared Sir Humphrey the victor and awarded him Prince Arian's courser, but even so, he will not be able to continue. His leg was broken in 2 places. Prince Baelor sent his own maester to tend to him. Let's see. Lord Ashford had half a mind to place Lord Caron, or perhaps the other Sir Humphrey, the one who gave Harding such a splendid match, but Prince Baelor told him that it would not be seemly to remove Sir Humphrey's shield and pavilion under the circumstances. They will continue with 4 champions in place of 5. Interesting. 4 champions, thought Dunk. All right, so this is the thing, right? This is the theory about Sansa's suitors, right? 4 champions, Dunk thought. Leo Tyrell, Lionel Baratheon, Tybolt Lannister, Prince Valar Targaryen, and Humphrey Harding. This lines up kind of with Sansa's suitors, with the people who Sansa is romantically or maritally involved with. We have Leo Tyrell, because she was to be engaged to Kentucky makes it hard to think. You know the Tyrell. The other Tyrell. The one who's still in Highgarden. You know the one. She was engaged. She was supposed to be engaged to a Tyrell. Then, before that, she was engaged to Joffrey Baratheon. She was married to Tyrion Lannister. And many people now think that she will be involved with Harry Harding, Harry the heir. Many people take this to mean that her last suitor will be in place of Prince Valar Targaryen. The last suitor may be either Aegon or Aegon the Sixth, young Griff, or Jon, or Dany, though that is a different theory. I don't necessarily buy it because they don't appear in the same order as they do in the tournament. But I suppose I digress. It's an interesting theory, and it is worth reading up on. And there's other interesting sort of parallels you can get by just digging into it. But for right now, let's continue. He had seen enough the first day. He would stand little chance against the first 3, those being Leo Tyrell, Lionel Baratheon, and Tybolt Lannister, which left only ... A Hedge Knight cannot challenge a prince. Valar is second in line to the Iron Throne. He is Prince Baelor Breakspear's son, and he is blood of Aegon Targaryen, Aegon the Conqueror, and the young dragon, and Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight. And I am some boy, the old man found in a pot shop in Flea Bottom. Does your cousin mean to challenge, he asked Sir Raymond. Yup. And then he asks, Sir Duncan, will you join me for a cup of wine? I have a matter to attend to, said Dunk, uncomfortable with the notion of accepting hospitality he could not return. I could wait here and bring your shield when the puppet show is over, said Egg. They're going to do Simeon Star Eyes later and make the dragon fight again as well. Lovely, lovely. See there, your matter is attended to. See there, your matter. See? There, you see, your matter is attended to, and the wine awaits. It's an Arbor vintage, too. How can you refuse me? So he follows Raymond to his tent and takes a cup of wine with him. They're talking about Prince Baelor. Prince Baelor is an honorable man. As the bright prince is not? Raymond laughed. Don't look so anxious, Sir Duncan. There's none here but us. It is no secret that Arion is a bad piece of work. Thank the gods he is well down in the order of succession. You truly believe he meant to kill his horse? Is there any doubt? If Prince Mycar had been there, it would have gone differently, I promise you. Arion is all smiles and chivalry so long as his father is watching. If the tales be true, but when he is not... So Mycar is off looking for his sons, Daeron and Aegon. Mycar's heir, Daeron, he's named after the king. They call him Daeron the Drunken, though not in his father's hearing. The youngest boy was with him as well. They left Summerhall together, but never reached Ashford. Poor Mycar. Yep. The king's fourth son, not quite as bold. Yep. So they're talking about the royal family. They're talking about Arion when Egg bursts back in. Sir Duncan, Egg burst in, panting. His hood had fallen back off, and the light from the brazier shone in his big, dark eyes. You have to run. He's hurting her. Dunk lurched to his feet, confused. Hurting? Who? Arion. He's hurting her. The puppet girl. Hurry. Whirling, he darted back out into the night. Dunk made to follow, but Raymond caught his arm. Sir Duncan, Arion, he said. Arion, he said, a prince of the blood. Be careful. So this is where things go really, really south for Dunk in this story. A wall of watchers had gathered around the puppeteers. Dunk shouldered through them, ignoring their curses. A man-at-arms in the royal livery stepped up to block him. Dunk put a big hand on his chest and shoved, sending the man flailing backwards to sprawl on his ass in the dirt. The puppeteer's stall had been knocked aside. The fat Dornish woman was on the ground weeping. One man-at-arms was dangling the puppets of Florian and Jonquil from his hands, and another set them afire with a torch. They're opening chests, spilling out puppets. The dragon puppet was scattered all around them, a broken wing here, its head there, its tail in 3 pieces. And in the midst of it all stood Arion Brightflame, resplendent in a red velvet doublet with long, dagged sleeves, twisting Tanzel's arm in both hands. She was on her knees, pleading with him. Arion ignored her. He forced open her hand and seized one of her fingers. Dunk stood there stupidly, not quite believing what he saw. Then he heard a crack, and Tanzel screamed. All right, I'm pouring myself a drink. Y'all know why. If you're familiar with the story, y'all know why. One of Arion's men tried to grab him and went flying. 3 long strides, then Dunk grabbed the prince's shoulder and wrenched him around hard. His sword and dagger were forgotten, along with everything the old man had ever taught him. His fist knocked Arion off his feet and the toe of his boot slammed into the prince's belly. When Arion went for his knife, Dunk stepped on his wrist and kicked him again, right in the mouth. He might have kicked him to death right then and there, but the princeling's men swarmed over him. He had a man on each arm and another pounding him across the back. No sooner had he wrestled free of one than 2 more were on him. Finally, they shoved him down and pinned his arms and legs. Arion was on his feet again. The prince's mouth was bloody. He pushed inside it with a finger. You've loosened one of my teeth, he complained. So we'll start by breaking all of yours. He pushed his hair from his eyes. You look familiar. You took me for a stable boy. Arion smiled readily. I recall. You refused to take my horse. Why did you throw your life away? For this whore. Tanzel was curled up on the ground, cradling her maimed hand. He gave her a shove with the toe of his boot. She's scarcely worth it. A traitor. The dragon ought never lose. I am taking this drink I am taking this drink because it is extremely, extremely extremely stupid for Dunk to rush in there. But that's part of doing the right thing, isn't it? It is charging in and making it very clear that you stand for what is right, what is good, what is decent, what is noble, what isn't breaking innocent people's fingers. Charging in. Even though you know that the prevailing quote-unquote wisdom is not to get involved. It is stupid not to stay on the sidelines and watch a powerful man do terrible things. It is stupid to step in. And it is why I like Dunk so much. Because he doesn't even think about it. He just goes. He's mad, thought Dunk, but he is still a prince's son, and he means to kill me. He might have prayed then if he'd known a prayer all the way through, but there was no time. There was hardly even time to be afraid. Nothing more to say, said Arion. You bore me, sir. He poked at his bloody mouth again. Get a hammer and break all his teeth out, and then let's cut him open and show him the color of his entrails. No, a boy's voice said. Boy's voice rhymes. Interesting.
That never occurred to me. The things you realize when you're 0.5 Kentuckies deep.
Gods be good, the boy. The brave, foolish boy, thought Dunk. Now see, this is not stupid. What Egg is doing is not stupid. Egg, the people best equipped to stop powerful people from doing bad things are powerful people. And Egg, as we're about to learn, is one of those powerful people. He fought against the arms restraining him, but it was no good. Hold your tongue, you stupid boy. Run away. They'll hurt you. No, they won't. Egg moved closer. If they do, they'll answer to my father, and my uncle as well. Let go of him, I said. Wait, Yorkle. You know me. Do as I say. The hands holding his left arm were gone, and then the others. Dunk did not understand what was happening. The men-at-arms were backing away. One even knelt. And the crowd parted for Raymond Fossaway. He had donned mail and helm, and his hand was on his sword. His cousin, Sir Stephen, just behind him, had already bared his blade, and with them were half-dozen men-at-arms with the red apple badge sewn on their breasts. Prince Arion paid them no mind. Impudent little wretch, he said to Egg, spitting out a mouthful of blood. What happened to your hair? I cut it off, brother, said Egg. I didn't want to look like you. And that's the end of part 2, right? Whew, what a dramatic turn. It turns out that Egg is the brother of Arion Brightflame, and Egg steps in front. Dunk heroically, dramatically charges in. And honestly, gets pretty lucky that he doesn't have his toenails systematically removed, because Costco brand Ramsay Bolton is trying to absolutely torture him to death. He's pretty lucky because since he was kind to a random stable boy, it turned out that that random stable boy was actually also a prince of the realm. And that's important. That is part of what this story is. People being more than they appear. Dunk appears to be only a hedge knight, but he is more noble, more honorable, more just, more kind, more rational than Arian Brightflame, in spite of the fact that Dunk does not appear to actually be a knight. And Egg is not an insolent stable boy. He is an insolent prince. But in part because he spent time with Dunk and saw how a good person acts, Egg steps in and uses the power that he has, the unjustly obtained power that he has. He uses it for good. I love these characters. Let's go. We're not too far now. I love this opening to this last section. Ready? The second day of the tourney was overcast, with a gusty wind blowing from the west. The crowds should be less on a day like this, Dunk thought. It would have been easier for them to find a spot near the fence to see the jousting up close. Egg might have sat on the rail while I stood behind him. Instead, Egg would have a seat in the viewing box dressed in silks and furs, while Dunk's view would be limited to the four walls of the tower's cell, where Lord Ashford's men had confined him. The chamber had a window, but it faced the wrong direction. Even so, Dunk crammed himself into the window seat as the sun came up, and stared gloomily off across town and field and forest. They had taken his hempen sword belt and his sword and dagger, and they had taken his silver as well. He hoped Egg or Raymond would remember Chestnut and Thunder. So Dunk is locked up for kicking the shit out of Prince Arian Brightflame. And he is lamenting his stupidity, his lack of observational skill, right? His poor decision-making in charging in and trying to save I should say, successfully saving Tenzel, by the way. They might have butchered her, right? They might have killed her in the street for what they did and suffered no consequences because they are princes of the realm. Their actions are what is legal. And he rushed in to save her. All right. Egg, he muttered under his breath. His squire, a poor lad plucked from the streets of King's Landing, had ever a knight been made such a fool? Dunk the Lunk, thick as a castle wall and slow as an oryx. Oh, I'm taking a drink, because Dunk, you are absolutely correct. You probably should have determined this before now. You probably at some point should have been like, oh God, that's terrible. You should have at some point been like, there's something off about this kid. He's not been permitted to ask about Tenzel or Egg. He's not been allowed to speak to anybody. He thinks to himself, what did I think would happen? He asked bitterly. I knocked down a prince's son and kicked him in the face. Yeah, but Dunk, it was pretty cool, though. Let's see. Dunk wished he were there in the crowd, right? He could hear the crowd, the horns of the heralds. He could hear the roar from the crowd from time to time. It reminded him of the noise Tenzel's finger had made when Arian broke it. He's comparing the sound of a lance to the sound of a finger breaking. There were other sounds too closer at hand. Footfalls in the hall outside his door and the stamp of hooves. Sometimes they drowned out the tourney. The old man had told him... Okay, I'm going to read all of this because I love this. Ready? A hedge knight is the truest kind of knight, Dunk, the old man had told him a long, long time ago. Oh, I'm sorry. Other knights serve lords who keep them, or from whom they hold their lands. But we serve where we will, and for men whose causes we believe in. Every knight swears to protect the weak and innocent, but we keep the vow best, I think. Queer how strong that memory seemed. Dunk had quite forgotten those words, and perhaps the old man had as well, toward the end. So he's hungry, he's in the key, and then he hears footsteps and the jangling of keys. Let's see. Oh, it's Egg, yes. He uncoiled and rose to his feet as the door opened. 2 guards pushed in, one bearing an oil lamp. A serving man followed with a tray of food. Behind came Egg. Leave the lamp and the food and go, the boy told them. They did as commanded, though Dunk noticed that they left the heavy wooden door ajar. The smell of the food made him realize how ravenous it was. Ready for this food description? Ooh, here we go. There was hot bread and honey, a bowl of peas porridge, a skewer of roast onions, and well-charred meat. You ready for a hot take? I love roast onions. I would eat the shit. I would eat the absolute daylights out of a skewer of roast onions. I'm having such a good time. Hang on. All right, you ready? We are at page 41 of 66. We are coming up on 2/3 of the way through. And I'm about to stand up. I'm about to stand up and, oh boy. I am what you would describe as aggressively sober. Let's see, there's no knife. Did they think I'd stab you? Oh, well-charred meat. I love some well-charred meat. They didn't tell me what they thought. My uncle says I must humbly beg your forgiveness for deceiving you. Your uncle, said Dunk. That would be Prince Baelor. The boy looked miserable. I never meant to lie. But you did, about everything, starting with your name. I never heard of a Prince Egg. It's short for Egan. My brother Aemon named me Egg. He's off at the Citadel now, learning to be a maester. And Daeron sometimes calls me Egg as well, and so do my sisters. That, by the way, that Aemon that he just referenced, the Aemon brother of Aegon, is a Maester Aemon who we, as readers, will meet later at the Wall. That is the Maester that Jon serves with. Dunk lifted the skewer. Yup, wonderful. Aegon, of course it's Aegon, like Aegon the dragon. How many Aegons have been king? 4, said the boy. 4 Aegons. Dunk chewed, swallowed. Why'd you do it? Was it some sort of jape? No. The boy's eyes filled with tears, but he stood there manfully. I was supposed to squire for Daeron. He's my oldest brother. I learned everything I had to learn to be a good squire, but Daeron isn't a very good knight. He didn't want to ride in the tourney, and so we left Summerhall and stole away from our escort, only instead of doubling back, we went straight on toward Ashford, thinking they'd never look for us that way. It was him shaved my head. He knew my father would send men hunting for us. Daeron has common hair, sort of a pale brown, nothing special, but mine is like Arian's and my father's, and he's getting quite emotional. The blood of the dragon, Dunk said. Silver gold hair and purple eyes, everyone knows that. Thick as a castle wall, Dunk. So Daeron shaves it off, and he meant for us to hide until the tourney was over. Only then you took me for a stable boy, and he lowered his eyes. I didn't care if Daeron fought or not. I wanted to be somebody's squire. I'm sorry, sir. I truly am. I thought you were like me, he said. Might be you are, only not the way I thought. What a nice thing. I'm going to read this passage, right? Dunk looked at him thoughtfully. He knew what it was like to want something so badly that you would tell a monstrous lie just to get near it. I thought you were like me, he said. Might be you are, only not the way I thought. Duncan, the most knightly character in this story, isn't a knight. Isn't that interesting? We're both from King's Landing still, said the boy hopefully. Dunk had to laugh. Yeah, you from the top of Aegon's Hill and me from the bottom. That's not so far, sir. Dunk took a bite from an onion. Do I need to call you my lord or your grace or something? At court, the boy admitted, but other times you can keep on calling me Egg if you like. Sir, what will they do with me, Egg? My uncle wants to see you after you're done eating, sir. I'm done now. I've already kicked one prince in the mouth. I don't want to keep another waiting. All right, so they go and visit Prince Baelor in Lord Ashford's chambers. Dunk kneels beside him and says, Rise. Would you care for... Oh, I'm sorry, was this Baelor or Mycar? This is Baelor. Rise, the prince said. Would you care for wine? As it please your grace. Pour Sir Duncan a cup of sweet Dornish red, Aegon, the prince commanded. Try not to spill it on him. You've suffered him sufficient ill already. The boy won't spill, your grace, said Dunk. He's a good boy, a good squire. He meant no harm to me, I know. One need not intend harm to do it. Aegon should have come to me when he saw what his brother was doing to those puppeteers. Instead he ran to you, and that was no kindness. What you did, sir, well, I might have done the same in your place, but I am a prince of the realm, not a hedge knight. It is never wise to strike a king's grandson in anger, no matter the cause. As I say, Dunk was quite stupid in that moment. Brave and good, but stupid. You know what? I'm going to do another drink. I'm going to do another little bit of a drink. Because he's correct. Prince Daeron, right? That's who we're talking to? No. Baelor. Prince Baelor is correct. It was stupid of Egg to go to Dunk. Egg knows this. But then again, he's also a kid. Oh well, I'm going to take a drink anyway. Oh, I would have thought it would start getting better. It's still bad. Oh, James, why you make bad Kentucky juice? Someone put that in the quotes folder in the Discord. By the way, if for some god-awful reason you are still watching this, please go to the Discord, put in the real quotes, in the real-life quotations folder, quote, James, why you make such bad Kentucky juice. And if you're not in the Discord, come join the Discord. It's kind of a party over there, actually. I'm going to be doing a Minecraft stream later this week. I'm very excited. Let's see. Yes, and he does make a good point. One does not need to intend harm to do it. A person in power can cause harm even if they don't mean to. Although then again, in that case, Egg was not flexing his power over Dunk. Dunk trusted Egg. And when there was a problem, when there was danger, Dunk ran. He ran to the problem, and he tried his best to fix it. I love these characters. Okay. They're drinking wine. Egg says, I hate Arion. I had to run for Sir Duncan, uncle. The castle was too far. Arion is your brother, the prince said firmly, and the Septons say we must love our brothers. Aegon, leave us now. I would speak with Sir Duncan privately. He bows stiffly. As you will, your grace, he says. How good Sir Baelor Breakspear studied Dunk's eyes for a long moment. Now that they are alone, he says, Sir Duncan, let me ask you this. How good a knight are you, truly? How skilled at arms? Dunk did not know what to say. Sir Arlen taught me sword and shield and how to tilt at rings and quintains. Prince Baelor seemed troubled by that answer. My brother Maikar returned to the castle a few hours ago. He found his heir drunk in an inn a day's ride to the south. Maikar would never admit as such, but I believe it was his secret hope that his sons might outshine me in this tourney. Instead, they have both shamed him, but what is he to do? They are blood of his blood. Maikar is angry and must needs have a target for his wrath. He has chosen you. Me, said Dunk miserably. Arion has already filled his father's ear, and Daeron has not helped you either. To excuse his own cowardice, he told my brother that a huge robber knight, chance met on the road, made off with Aegon, and I fear that you have been cast as this robber knight, sir. In Daeron's tale, he has spent all these days pursuing you hither and yon to win back his brother. But Egg will tell him the truth. Aegon, I mean. Egg will tell him, I have no doubt, said Prince Baelor. But the boy has been known to lie too, as you have good reason to recall. Which son will my brother believe? As for the matter of these puppeteers, by the time Arion is done twisting the tale, it will be high treason. The dragon is the sigil of the royal house. To portray one being slain, sawdust, blood spilling from its neck. Well, it was doubtless innocent, but it was far from wise. Prince Baelor makes a good point, and a good point must be celebrated with Kentucky juice. Mm. Oh. Good Lord. Where am I? Yes, my brother has a prickly nature. Arion and Daeron are grave disappointments. What my brother believes or fails to believe, one truth is beyond dispute. You laid hands on the blood of the dragon. For that offense you must be tried and judged and punished. Punished? Dunk did not like the sound of that. Arion would like your head, with or without teeth. He will not have it, I promise you, but I cannot deny him a trial. As my royal father is hundreds of leagues away, my brother and I must sit in judgment of you, along with Lord Ashford, whose domains these are, and Lord Tyrell of Highgarden, his liege lord. The last time a man was found guilty of striking one of the royal blood, it was decreed that he should lose the offending hand. My hand, said Dunk, aghast. And your foot. You kicked him too, did you not? Dunk could not speak. To be sure, I will urge my fellow judges to be merciful. I am the king's hand and the heir to the throne. My word carries some weight, but so does my brother's. The risk is there. Your grace, They meant no treason. It was only a wooden dragon. It was never meant to be a royal prince, he wanted to say. But his words had deserted him all at once, and he'd never been any good with words at any rate. You have another choice, though, Prince Baelor said quietly. Whether it is a better choice or a worse, I cannot say. But I remind you that any knight accused of a crime has the right to demand a trial by combat. So I ask you once again, Sir Duncan the Tall, how good a knight are you, truly? And now we have set the stage for the final part of this story. There's a brief time skip, a scene change. A trial of 7, said Prince Arion, smiling. That is my right, I do believe. Prince Baelor drummed his fingers on the table, frowning. To his left, Lord Ashford nodded slowly. Why? Prince Maekar demanded, leaning forward to his son. Are you afraid this Hedge Knight? Are you afraid to face this Hedge Knight alone? Let the gods decide the truth of your accusations. Afraid, said Arion, of such as this? Don't be absurd, father. My thought is for that of my beloved brother. Daron has been wronged by this Sir Duncan as well, and his first claim to his blood. A trial of 7 allows us both to face him. Do me no favors, brother, muttered Daron Targaryen. This, by the way, Daron Targaryen is the same person that we met in the inn at the beginning of the story. Uh-oh, I don't believe that I am... No, we must remember. The turn of phrase is aggressively sober. Yes. Okay, so we are doing a trial by 7. We're going to fast forward just a little bit. I must fight 7 men, then? Asked Dunk hopelessly. Not alone, sir, Prince Maekar said impatiently. Don't play the fool. It must be 7 against 7. You must find 6 other knights to help you. Yes, Prince Maekar Targaryen looked on him coldly. If a cause is just, good men will fight for it. If you can find no champions, sir, it will be because you are guilty. So Dunk must find 6 champions to face alongside him. Of course, Arion, who has made this challenge, will have no trouble finding 6 other people to fight with him. But Dunk is just a guy. He is a hedge knight. He is nobody. He will need to convince people, if he can. Let's see. Oh, I love this phrase. Dunk had never felt so alone as he did when he walked out of the gates of Ashford Castle. Ooh, very nice, very, very pleasant. So, by dawn, he must, and with dawn comes death, he thinks. So by dawn, he must find 6 people to fight with him in a trial of 7 to determine his guilt or innocence. They gave him his silver and sword back, yup. Soft cries of pleasure from within one tent. It made him wonder whether he would die having never known a maid. I'm reminded of the Ygritte quote, "A maid? You were a maid?" Yep, he hears a snort. He finds thunder at the tent of the Fossaway apples, of Raymond Fossaway, I believe. A trial by combat, says Raymond heavily. Gods be good, Duncan. That means lances of war, morning stars, battle axes. The swords won't be blunted. Raymond the Reluctant, mocked his cousin Sir Stephen. An apple made of golden garnets fastened his cloak of yellow wool. You need not fear, cousin. This is a knightly combat, and you are no knight. Your skin is not at risk. Sir Duncan, you have one Fossaway at least, the ripe one. I saw what Arion did to those puppeteers. I am for you. And I, snapped Raymond angrily. I only meant his cousin cut him off. Mid-sentence, his cousin cuts him off. Stephen Fossaway is an asshole. I hate Stephen Fossaway. Who else fights with us, Sir Duncan? He cuts him right off. Dunk spread his hands hopelessly. I know of no one else. Well, except for Sir Manfred Dondarian. He wouldn't even vouch that I was a knight. He'll never risk his life for me. Sir Stephen seemed little perturbed. Then we need 5 more good men. Fortunately, I have more than 5 friends. Leo Longthorn, the Laughing Storm, Lord Caron, the Lannisters, Sir Otho Bracken, I, and the Blackwoods as well, maybe, though you will never get a Blackwood and a Bracken to fight on the same melee. On the same side of a melee, I should say. I shall go and speak with some of them. They won't be happy at being woken, his cousin objected. Excellent. If they are angry, they'll fight for me all the more fiercely. You may rely on me, Sir Duncan. Cousin, if I do not return before the dawn, bring my armor and see that wrath is saddled and barded for me. I shall meet you both in the challenger's paddock. He laughed. This will be a day to remember. 5 knights. Sir Duncan, I am loath to dash your hopes, but... Yes, okay. Leo Longthorn, the Brood of Bracken, the Laughing Storm. Raymond stood. He knows all of them, I have no doubt, but I would be less certain that any of them knows him. Stephen sees this as a chance for glory, but it means your life. You should find your own men. I'll help. Better for you to have too many champions than too few. A noise outside made Raymond turn his head. Who goes there? He demanded, as a boy ducked through the flap, followed by a thin man in a rain-sodden black cloak. Egg? Doug got to his feet. What are you doing here? I'm your squire, the boy said. You'll need someone to arm you. Does your father know you've left the castle? I love this phrase. I love this line. Gods be good, I hope not. Daron Targaryen undid the clasp of his cloak and let it slide from his thin shoulders. You? Are you mad coming here? Doug pulled his knife from his sheath. I ought to shove this through your belly. Probably, Prince Daron admitted, though I'd sooner you poured me a cup of wine. Look at my hands. He held one out to let them see how it shook. Dunk stepped forward, glowering. I don't care about your hands. You lied to me. I had to say something when my father demanded to know where my little brother had gotten to. If truth be told, I hadn't even realized Egg was gone. He wasn't at the bottom of my wine cup, and I hadn't looked elsewhere, so... Meh. Sir, my father is going to have 7 accusers. Sir, my father is going to join the 7 accusers. Egg broke in. I begged him not to, but he won't listen. He says it's the only way to redeem Arion's honor, and Daron's. Not that I ever asked to have my honor redeemed. So so Dunk and Daron and Egg are talking. And Daron is like, I'm sorry, I lied. I was wasted, and I just said the first thing that came to my head because my brother was missing, and my dad was going to be mad at me because my brother was missing. It is another instance of this class difference between the different sections of this story, isn't it? Because Daron can just like fuck off, right? He can just fuck off and fuck around and have there be no consequences. Whereas Dunk doesn't have that luxury. He tries to do the right thing and is roundly punished for it. Let's see. Yes, okay. So they name Arion's 6 champions. My father has commanded the King's Guard to fight with him. The 3 who are here, that is. Roland Crakehall, Donald of Duskendale, and Sir Willem Wilde. So that makes 6, he says. And Daron explains that once the battle starts, as soon as he gets somebody takes one good swing at him, he's going to fall over, right? He's going to lay in the mud. It's fine, I'm just going to lay in the mud, I'm not going to fight. And that's a good thing. Well, if Dunk can get a good team, it'll be 7-on-6 because Dayron is like, I'm sorry, and also I hate this, so I'm just gonna lay down. So we have Arion, Dayron, Mykar, Roland Crakehall, Donald of Duskendale, and Willem Wild. Those last three being members of the Kingsguard. Dunk counted on his fingers that Dunk counted on his fingers. That makes 6. Who's the 7th man? Dayron shrugged and says Arion will find someone. He'll buy one if he needs to. Only one friend on his side. Egg says, I can bring people. And Dunk says, I will be fighting your own brothers. You won't hurt Dayron, though, the boy said. He told you he'd just fall down. And Arion, I remember when I was little, he used to come into my bedchamber at night and put his knife between my legs. Tom is debating whether to... I'm going to read it, okay? I'm going to read this line because it tells us things about Arion Brightflame. It tells us things about Arion Brightflame that actually remind us of Euron Greyjoy, don't they? You won't hurt Dayron, though, the boy said. He told you he'd fall down, and Arion, I remember when I was little, he used to come into my bedchamber at night and put his knife between my legs. He'd had too many brothers, he'd say. And maybe one night he'd make me his sister, and then he could marry me. He threw my cat in the well, too. He says he didn't, but he always lies. Arion is disgusting. Arion is a vile creature, a vile character, deserving of the death that deserving of a fiery death. Egg has the truth of it. Arion is quite the monster, says Dayron. Let's see. As you wish your grade. So Dayron and Dunk take a walk. And Dayron says, I dreamed of you. My dreams are true, not like yours, Sir Duncan. Mine are true. They frighten me. You frighten me. I dreamed of you and a dead dragon, you see. A great beast. Huge, with wings so large they could cover this meadow. It had fallen on top of you, but you were alive, and the dragon was dead. Did I kill it? Says Dunk. That I could not say, but you were there, and so was the dragon. We were the masters of the dragons once, we Targaryens. Now they are all gone, but we remain. I don't care to die today. The gods alone know why, but I don't. So do me a kindness if you would, and make sure it is my brother Arion you slay. Well, I shan't kill you, sir. I'll withdraw my accusation, but it won't serve unless Arion withdraws his. It may be that I've already killed you with my lie. If so, I'm sorry. I'm doomed to some hell I know, likely one without wine. He shuddered, and on that they parted, there in the cool, soft rain. Okay. The merchants are assembling. Steely Pate appears. If you've come for your shield, he says, Tanzel left it with me. 2 hands and 2 feet, I count, so it be trial by combat then. A trial of 7. How do you know? How did you know? Well, they might have kissed you and made you a lord, but that didn't seem likely. And if it weren't t'other, you might be short some parts. Now follow me. So he leads him into his wagon. So where did Tanzel go? They make for Dorne, the girl's uncle. There's a wise man. Yep. So they're bugging out, and Dunk gets his famous shield. He gets a shield. Even by lantern light, the sunset colors were rich and bright. The tree tall and strong and noble. The falling star was a bright slash of paint across the oaken sky. Yet now the Dunk held it in his hands. It all seemed wrong. The star was falling. What sort of sigil was that? Would he fall just as fast? Then sunset heralds night. I should have stayed with the chalice, he said miserably. It had wings, at least, to fly away. And Sir Arlen said the cup was full of faith and fellowship and good things to drink. This shield is all painted up like death. The elm's alive, Pate pointed out. See how green the leaves are? Summer leaves, for certain. and I've seen shields blazoned with skulls and wolves and ravens, even hanged men and bloody heads. They served well enough, and so will this. And you know the old rhyme, oak and iron guard me well, or else I'm dead and doomed to hell, Dunk finished. He had not thought of that rhyme in years, and the old man had taught it to him a long time ago. How much do you want for the new rimonal? From you? He scratched his beard. A copper. So, Dunk, being a good man, an honest man, a noble man, has made friends of people who are not noble. He has made friends of Tanzel, who did finish the painting for him. He made friends of Pate, who is giving him a newly rimmed and decked out shield for basically free. He's made friends of Egg, a prince who seems lost. He's a good man, if a little bit of a stupid one. The rain had all but stopped as the first wan light suffused the eastern sky, but it had done its work. Lord Ashford's men had removed the barriers, and the Tourney field was one great morass of grey-brown mud and torn grass. Tendrils of fog were writhing along the ground like pale white snakes as Dunk made his way back to the lists. Steely Pate walked along with him. The viewing stand had already begun to fill, the lords and ladies clutching their cloaks tight about them against the morning chill. Small folk were drifting toward the field as hundreds of them already stood against the fence. So many had come to see me die, thought Dunk bitterly, but he was wrong. But he wronged them. A few steps farther on, a woman called out, "Good fortune to you." An old man stepped up to take his hand and say, "May the gods give you strength, sir." And then a begging brother in a tattered brown robe said a blessing on his sword, and a maid kissed his cheek. They are for me, he thought. Why? He asked Pate. What am I to them? A knight who remembered his vows, the smith said. They found Raymond outside the challenger's paddock at the south end of the lists, waiting with his cousin's horse and Dunk's. Thunder tossed restlessly beneath the weight of, chinnet, chamfron, and blanket of heavy mail. Let's look those words up. Chinet, C-H-I-N-E-T, chinnet, chinnet. Define. Chinnet, what is a chinnet made out? Okay, well, I guess it's not going to tell us that. Chinnet, perhaps chinnet. Jousting? Well, it doesn't want to tell us, so we shall continue. Now I feel stupid. Oh boy. Pate inspected the armor and pronounced that it was good work, even though someone else had forged it. Wherever the armor had come from, Dunk was grateful. Perfect. One-eyed man with salt and pepper beard, a young knight in striped yellow and black surcoat with beehives, Robin Riesling and Humphrey Beesbury, he thought in astonishment. Mr. Humphrey Harding as well. Harding was mounted on Arion's red courser, now barded in his red and white diamond. Yes, so he has. I believe these are his teammates, right? These are his teammates. Raymond took Dunk aside. I hoped Harding would want another chance at Arion, and he did. As it happens, the other Humphrey is his brother by marriage. Egg is responsible for Sir Robin, whom he knew from other tourneys. So you are 5. 6, said Dunk in wonder, pointing. A knight was entering the paddock, his squire leading his charger behind him. The laughing storm. A head taller than Sir Raymond and almost of a height with Dunk, Sir Lionel wore cloth of gold surcoat and the crowned stag of House Baratheon, and he carried his antlered helm under his arm. Dunk reached for his hand. Sir Lionel, I cannot thank you enough for coming, nor Sir Stephen for bringing you. Sir Stephen! Sir Stephen! Wait, we gotta give him a Robert Baratheon voice, right? Sir Stephen! Sir Lionel gave him a puzzled look. It was your squire who came to me, the boy, Aegon. My own lad tried to chase him off, but he slipped between his legs and turned a flagon of wine over my head." He laughed. "There's not been a trial of 7 for more than 100 years. Do you know that? I was not about to miss a chance to fight the King's Guards knights and tweak Prince Mykar's nose in the bargain." I love Lionel Baratheon. There's so much swagger in this book. 6, said Dunk hopefully to Raymond Fossaway, as Sir Lionel joined the others. Your cousin will surely bring the last." A roar went up from the crowd. At the north end of the meadow, a column of knights came trotting out of the river mist. The 3 Kingsguard came first, like ghosts in their gleaming white enamel armor, long white cloaks trailing behind them. Even their shields were white, blank and clean as a field of new-fallen snow. Behind them rode Prince Mykar and his sons. Aerion was mounted on a dapple gray, orange and red flickering through the slashes in the horp's caparison at either side. His brother's Destria was a smaller bay, armored in overlapping black and gold scales. A green silk plume trailed over Daeron's helm. It was their father who made the most fearsome appearance, however. Black curved dragon's teeth ran across his shoulders, along the crest of his helm and down his back. A huge spiked mace was strapped to his saddle. It was strapped to his saddle, as deadly-looking a weapon as Dunk had ever seen. Oh boy. So we're setting the stage, right? It was true, Dunk saw. 3 black knights and 3 white. They are a man short as well. Was it possible that Aerion had not been able to find a 7th man? What would that mean? Would they fight 6 against 6 if neither found a 7th? Egg slipped up behind him as he was trying to puzzle it out. "Sir, it's time you donned your armor." "Thank you, squire, if you would be so good." Steely Pate lent a hand. Hauberk and Gorget, greaves and gauntlet, coif and codpiece, they turned him into steel, checking each buckle and each clasp thrice. Sir Lionel sat sharpening his sword on a whetstone while the Humphreys talked quietly. Sir Robin prayed, and Sir Raymond Fossaway paced back and forth, wondering where his cousin had got to. So Raymond says, "Please give me my mail." "Sir Stephen, what of your Oh, yes. Sir Stephen," said Dunk, "what of your friends? We need another night to make our 7. You ready for this? You ready for this? You ready for this twist? You ready for this twist right at the end? I'm pouring myself a drink, because this is stupid of Dunk to trust and stupid of Stephen to carry out. Actually, no, it's not stupid of Stephen, right? This is actually the wiser choice. Stephen takes the wiser choice, but is the choice of a cruel, self-serving man that we now know Stephen Fossaway to be. "Sir Stephen," said Dunk, "what of your friends? We need another night to make our 7. "You need 2, I fear," Sir Stephen said. Raymond laced up the back of the hauberk. "My lord?" Dunk did not understand. "2?" Sir Stephen picked up a gauntlet of fine lobstered steel and slid his left hand into it, flexing his fingers. "I see 5 here," he said while Raymond fastened his sword belt. "Beesbury, Riesling, Harding, Baratheon, and yourself." "And you," said Dunk. "You are the 6th. Dunk the Lunk, thick as a castle wall, am I right?" "I am the 7th, said Sir Stephen, smiling. "But for the other side. I fight with Prince Aerion, and the accusers." Raymond had been about to hand his cousin his helm, and stopped as if struck. "No." "Yes," Sir Stephen shrugged. Sir Duncan understands, I am sure. I have a duty to my prince." "You told him to rely on you." Raymond had gone pale. "Did I? No doubt I was sincere at the time. Bring me my horse." "Get him yourself," said Raymond angrily. "If you think I wish any part of this, then you are as thick as you are vile." "Vile?" Sir Stephen tisked. "Guard your tongue, Raymond. We're both apples from the same tree, and you are my squire. Or have you forgotten your vows?" "No. Have you forgotten yours? You swore to be a knight." So Stefan Fossaway has betrayed Dunk. He said, "You can rely on me. I will be your seventh. I'm an asshole, but I'll fight for you." But when push came to shove, Sir Stefan Fossaway chose himself, and he sided with Arion Brightflame, hoping to use this as an opportunity to curry favor with the royal family. I shall be a knight. I shall be more than a knight when this day is done. Yup, yup, yup. Dunk watched Sir Stefan lead his destrier back across the field. And then Raymond turns to Dunk and says, "Knight me. I will take my cousin's place, Sir Duncan. Knight me." Frowning, Dunk moved a hand to the hilt of his sword and then hesitated. "Raymond, I should not." "You must. Without me, you are only 5. The lad has the truth of it," said Sir Lionel Baratheon. "Do it, Sir Duncan. Any knight can make a knight." Ooh, and Duncan is hesitating. Duncan is hesitating because he feels that his knighthood would not be valid. I wonder why. Fanfare of trumpets. Sir Lord Ashford summons you. The laughing storm gave an impatient shake of the head. "Go to him, Sir Duncan. I'll give your squire Raymond his knighthood." "Raymond of House Fossaway," he began solemnly, touching the blade to the squire's shoulder. "In the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave, blah, blah, blah." And then Duncan leaves, as Raymond is being knighted. "Sir Duncan," he said Lord Ashford cheerfully, "it would seem you only have 5 champions." "6, said Dunk. "Sir Lionel is knighting Raymond Fossaway. We'll fight you 6 against 7. He thinks men had won at far worse odds, but Lord Ashford shook his head. "That is not permitted, sir. If you cannot find another knight to take your side, you must be declared guilty of the crimes of which you stand accused." "Guilty," thought Dunk. "Guilty of loosening a tooth, and for that I must die." "My lord, I beg a moment." "You have it." So now Sir Duncan the Tall, Sir Duncan who is not a knife, Sir Duncan who is not a knight, Sir Duncan who is the knightliest person in the tournament, really. Sir Duncan, who is the knightliest person in the realm, must now appeal to these unknightly knights to fight on his behalf. Dunk rode slowly along the fence. The viewing stand was crowded with knights. "My lords, do none of you remember Sir Arlen of Pennytree? I was his squire. We served many of you, ate at your tables, and slept in your halls. Sir Arlen took a wound in your father's service," he said to Manfred Dondarrion. The knight said something to the lady beside him, paying no heed. Dunk was forced to move on. "Lord Lannister, Sir Arlen unhorsed you once in a tourney." The Grey Lion examined his gloved hands, studiously refusing to raise an eye. "He was a good man, and he taught me how to be a knight. Not only sword and lance, but honor. A knight defends the innocent," he said. "That's all I did. I need one more knight to fight beside me. One, that's all. Lord Caron? Lord Swan?" Lord Swan laughed softly as Lord Caron whispered in his ear. Dunk reined up before Sir Otho Bracken, lowering his voice. "Sir Otho, I know you for a great champion. Join us, I beg you, in the names of the old gods and the new. My cause is just." "That may be," said the brute of Bracken, who at least had the grace to reply, "but it is your cause, not mine." Heartsick, Dunk wheeled thunder and raced back and forth before the tears of pale, cold men. Despair made him shout, "Are there no true knights among you?" And silence answered. Across the field, Prince Arion laughed. The dragon is not mocked," he called out, and then came a voice. "I will take Sir Duncan's side." A black stallion emerged out of the river mists, a black knight on his back. Dunk saw the dragon shield and the red enamel crest, and the young prince. Gods be good! Is it truly him? Lord Ashford made the same mistake. Prince Valar? No. The Black Knight lifted the visor of his helm. I did not think to enter the lists at Ashford, my lord, so I brought no armor. My son was good enough to lend me his. Prince Baelor smiled, almost sadly. The accusers were thrown into confusion. Dunk could see. Prince Mykar spurred his mount forward. Brother, have you taken leave of your senses? He pointed a mailed finger at Dunk. This man attacked my son. This man protected the weak, as every true knight must. Let the gods determine if he was right or wrong. Dunk brought up thunder beside him, and the other defenders gathered round him. Robin Riesling, Sir Lionel, the Humphreys. Good men all. But are they good enough? Where is Raymond? Sir Raymond, if you please. He cantered up, a grim smile lighting his face beneath his plumed helm. My pardon, sir. I needed to make a small change to my sigil, lest I be mistaken for my dishonorable cousin. He showed them all his shield. The polished golden fielder made the same, and the Fossaway apple. But this apple was green instead of red. I fear I am not ripe, but green. I'm sorry. Ready? I love this line. Perhaps the best line in the whole story. Ready? I fear I am not ripe still, but better green. Okay, there might be a reason that I am having difficulty speaking adequately. One more time. I fear I am not ripe, but better green than wormy. Love it. Oh, love it. Everybody got such swag in this book. Oh, it's so good. Sir Lionel laughed, like he does. And Dunk grinned. Okay, all right. Okay, so we got both sides, right? We have 3 Kingsguard, Mykar, Daeron, Arion, and the traitor Stefan on one side. And on the other side, we got the 2 Humphreys. We got, who's the other one? Hang on. We got the 2 Humphreys, the Riesling, Sir Lionel Baratheon, Dunk, Raymond Fossaway, the newly minted green apple Fossaway, and the rockin' up, swagginest, most awesome Targaryen, Baelor Breakspear. Absolutely the coolest character, ready to rock up. These are our 2 sides. Okay, here we go. So Baelor calls his team together, right? Dunk's team. Attend me, all of you. The accusers will be armed with heavy war lances for the first charge. Lances of ash, 8 feet long, banded against splitting and tipped with a steel point, sharp enough to drive through plate with the weight of a war horse behind it. He's definitely going to be... He's definitely going to have the voice of Lyman Beesbury, ready? We shall use the same, said Sir Humphrey Beesbury. Behind him, the Septon was calling on the 7 to look down and judge this dispute. We look down and judge this dispute, and grant victory the men whose cause was just. No, said Baelor. We will arm ourselves with tourney lances. Tourney lances are made to break, objected Raymond. They are also made 12 feet long. If our points strike home, theirs cannot touch us. Aim for helm or chest. In a tourney, it is a gallant thing to break your lance against a foe's shield, but here it may well mean death. If we can unhorse them and keep our own saddles, the advantage is ours. He glanced to Dunk. If Sir Duncan is killed, it is considered that the gods have judged him guilty, and the contest is over. If both accusers are slain or withdraw their accusations, the same is true. Elsewise, all 7 of one side or the other must perish or yield for the trial to end. Prince Daeron will not fight. Yup. Against that we have 3 white swords. My brother erred when he demanded the Kingsguard fight for his son. Their oath forbids them to harm a prince of the blood. Fortunately, I am such. An interesting advantage. Keep the others off me long enough, and I shall deal with the Kingsguard. Very cool. My prince, is that chivalrous? Asked Sir Lionel Baratheon. The gods will let us know. So good. Yes, and now we begin the final scene. A deep, expectant silence had fallen across Ashford Meadow. 80 yards away, Arion's grey stallion trumpeted with impatience and pawed the muddy ground. Thunder was very still by comparison. He was an older horse, veteran of half 100 fights, and he knew what was expected of him. Egg handed Dunk up his shield. "May the gods be with you, sir." The sight of his elm tree and shooting star gave him heart. Dunk slid his left arm through the strap, and he tightened his fingers around the grip. "Oak and iron guard me well, or else I'm dead and doomed to hell." Steely Pate brought his lance to him, but Egg insisted that it must be he who put it into Dunk's hand. He sees his companions splayed out on either side. Dunk watches Arian's squire hand him a war lance 8 feet long, as black as night. "He'll put that through my heart if he can," Dunk thinks. And then a horn sounds. For a heartbeat, Dunk sat still as a fly in amber, though the horses were all moving. A stab of panic went through him. "I have forgotten," he thought wildly. "I have forgotten all. I will shame myself and lose everything." But thunder saved him. The big brown stallion knew what to do, even if his rider didn't. He broke into a slow trot. Dunk's training took over then. He gave his warhorse a light touch of spur and couched his lance. At the same time, he swung his shield until it covered most of the left side of his body. He held it at an angle to deflect blows away from him. "Oak and iron guard me well, or else I'm dead and doomed to hell." You ready for several pages of tournament porn? Here we go. The noise of the crowd was no more than the crash of distant waves. Thunder slid into a gallop, and Dunk's teeth jarred together. Here we go. I'm Thunder, thunder is me, and he could scarce breathe. In a tourney joust, his foe would be to his left, across the tilting barrier, and then he would need a swing lance across Thunder's neck. The angle made it more likely that the wood would split on impact. This was a deadlier game they played. With no barriers, the Destriers rode straight at one another. Prince Baelor's huge black was much faster than Thunder, and Dunk glimpsed him pounding. He sensed more than he saw the others. They do not matter. Only Arian matters. Only him. He watched the dragon come, spatters of blood spraying from the hooves of Prince Arian's grey, and Dunk could see the horse's nostrils flaring. The black lance still angled upward. A knight who holds his lance high and brings it on line at the last moment always risks lowering it too far. The old man had taught him so. He brought his own point to bear at the center of the princeling's chest. "My lance is part of my arm. My lance is part of my arm. It's my finger, a wooden finger. All I need to do is touch him with my long wooden finger." Three-headed beast that covered Arian's shield, red wings, gold fire. "Look only where you mean to strike," he remembered suddenly, but his lance had already begun to slide offline. Dunk tried to correct, but it was too late. He saw his point strike Arian's shield, taking the dragon between two of its heads, gouging a gout of painted flame. At the muffled crack, he felt thunder recoil under him, trembling with the force of the impact, and half a heartbeat later, something smashed into his side with awful force. The horses slammed together violently, armor crashing and clanging. And then he was past his foe, clutching at his saddle, trying to keep his seat. Thunder lurched sideways in the sloppy mud, and Dunk felt his rear legs slip out. They were winding, spinning. The stallion's hindquarters slapped down. Up, Dunk roared. "Up, Thunder!" And somehow his old warhorse found his feet again. He felt a sharp pain under his rib. His left arm was being pulled down. Arian had driven a lance through oak, wool, and steel. 3 feet of splintered ash and sharp iron was stuck into his side. Dunk reached over with his right hand, grasped the lance just below the head, clenched his teeth, and pulled it out. He tossed aside his shield, elm tree, shooting star, broken lance and all. He drew his sword, but he hurt so much that he could not swing it. Turning Thunder in a tight circle, he tried to get a sense of what was happening elsewhere on the field. Sir Humphrey Harding clung to the neck of his mount, obviously wounded. The other Humphrey lay motionless in a lake of blood-stained mud. A broken lance was protruding from his groin. He saw Prince Baelor gallop past, lance still intact, and drive one of the Kingsguard from his saddle. Another of the White Knights was already down, and Mycar had been unhorsed as well. The third of the Kingsguard was fending off Sir Robin Riesling. Arian! Where is Arian? The sound of drumming hooves behind him made Dunk turn his head sharply. Thunder bulged and reared, hooves lashing out futilely as Arian's gray stallion bared onto him at full gallop. This time there was no hope for recovery. His longsword went spinning from his grasp, and the ground rose up to meet him. He landed with a bruising impact that jarred him to the bone. Pain stabbed through him, so sharp that he sobbed. For a moment it was all that he could do to lie there. Dunk the Lunk thought he could be a knight. He knew it was hard. He knew he had to find his feet again or die. Groaning, he forced himself to his hands and knees. The eye slit of his helm was packed with mud. Lurching blindly to his feet, Dunk scraped at the mud with a mailed fist and saw. Through his fingers he glimpsed the dragon flying, a spiked morning star whirling on the end of a chain. Then his head burst to pieces. When he opened his eyes, he saw the ground again. He was sprawled on his back. The mud had been knocked all over his helm, from his helm, but now one eye was closed by blood. Above was nothing but dark gray sky. His face throbbed, and he could feel cold, wet metal pressing in against his cheek and temple. He broke my head, and I'm going to die. What was worse was that the champions who would die with him, Raymond and Prince Baelor and the rest, I failed them. I'm no champion. I'm not even a Hedge Knight. I'm nothing. He remembered Prince Daron boasting that he could lie insensible in mud as well as he did. He remembered Prince Daron boasting that no one could lie insensible in the mud as well as he could. He never saw Dunk the Lunk, though, did he? The shame was worse than the pain. The dragon appeared above him. 3 heads it had, and wings bright as flame. Red and yellow and orange, it was laughing. Are you dead yet, Hedge Knight? Cry for quarter and admit your guilt, and perhaps you'll only claim a hand and a foot. Oh, and those teeth. But what are a few teeth? A man like you can live on peas porridge. No? Then eat this. A spiked ball whirled around and fell toward his head as fast as a shooting star. Dunk rolled. This book rocks. Where he found his strength he did not know, but he rolled. He rolled into Arian's legs, threw a steel-clad arm around his thigh, dragging him cursing into the mud, and rolled on top of him. Let him swing down his bloody morning star now. The prince tried forcing the lip of his shield up at Dunk's head, but his battered helm took the brunt of the impact. Arian was strong, but Dunk was stronger, and larger, and heavier. He grabbed hold of the shield with both hands, twisted, and the straps broke. Then he brought down on the top of the princeling's helm, again and again and again and again and again, smashing the enameled flames of his crest. The shield was thicker than Dunk's had been. Solid oak, banded with iron. A flame broke off, then another. The prince ran out of flames long before Dunk ran out of blows. Arian finally let go of the handle of his useless morning star and crawled for the poniard at his hip. He got it free of his sheath, but when Dunk wanged his hand with the shield, the knife sailed into the mud. He could vanquish Sir Duncan the Tall, but not Dunk of Flea Bottom. The old man had taught him jousting and swordplay, but this sort of fighting he had learned earlier. In the shadowy wines and crooked alleys behind the city's wine sinks, Dunk flung the battered shield away and wrenched up the visor of Arian's helm. A visor is a weak point, he remembered Steely Pate saying. The prince had all but ceased to struggle. His eyes were purple and full of terror. Dunk had a sudden urge to grab one and pop it like a grape. But that would not be knightly. Yield, he shouted. I yield, the dragon whispered, his pale lips barely moving. Dunk blinked down at him. For a moment he could not credit what his ears had heard. Is it done, then? He turned his head slowly from side to side, trying to see. His vision slit was partially closed by the blow that had smashed in the left side of his face. He glimpsed Prince Mykar, mace in hand, trying to fight his way to his son's side. Baelor Breakspear was holding him off. Dunk lurched to his feet and pulled Prince Arian up after him. Fumbling at the lacings of his helm, he tore it off and threw it away. At once he was drowned in sights and sounds, grunts and curses and shouts, one stallion screaming while another raced riderless across the field. Everywhere steel rang on steel. Raymond and his cousin were slashing at each other in front of the viewing stand, both afoot. Their shields were splintered ruins. The green apple and the red hacked at each other. The green apple and the red both hacked to tinder. One of the Kingsguard knights was carrying a wounded brother from the field. They both looked alike in their white armor and white cloaks. A third of the white knights was down, and the laughing storm had joined Prince Baelor against Prince Mykar. Mace, battle-axe, and longsword clashed and clanged, ringing against helm and shield. Prince Mykar was taking 3 blows for every one he landed, and Dunk could see that it would be over soon. I must make an end to this before more of us are killed. Prince Arion made a sudden dive for his morning star. Dunk kicked him in the back and knocked him face down, grabbed hold of one of his legs and dragged him across the field. By the time he reached the viewing stand where Lord Ashford sat, the bright prince was brown as a privy. Dunk hauled him onto his feet and rattled him, shaking some of the mud onto Lord Ashford and the fair maid. "Tell him," Arion Brightflame spit out a mouthful of grass and dirt. "I withdraw my accusation."
Whew. Okay. That, by the way, if you haven't established already, that is the scene that you are looking at on your screen right now. That, the clashing of the Trial of Seven, is what you can see on your screen. This is a scene from the comic book, the graphic novel, which you 100%, like, unironically, I love these works, I love the artist, and I don't think like, well, what's the turn of phrase? I don't think it's controversial to say that I love the author. If this is the sort of story that you enjoy, please, please go and support these. Go buy the graphic novel. It's awesome. It's fantastic. This what I'm doing right now does not do justice to how excellent the graphic novel is. That scene is so good, and I just want to make it very clear that I want these individuals, right? The people who make these things. I want George Martin, and I don't even know who their name. No, not Game of Thrones. Who is it? The Hedge Knight comic book. Oh my god! I had so much juice beverage. Who does the art for the comic book? I want to find out right now. Who does the art for the comic book? Read more. Yes. Does it say? It doesn't say. Who the? Mike S. Miller. Mike S. Miller. Ben Avery, I assume, is the typesetter, and Mike S. Miller is the illustrator. They are excellent. I want to support these fantastic people. Please go buy this book. It is so good. So good. This is not supposed to replace reading the book, especially the graphic novel. I can't talk it up enough. It's extraordinary. But now let's talk about that scene, right? I skipped over the tournament porn earlier, but like this is real tournament porn, right? This is chef's kiss. It's so good. It's great. It's high energy. It's not too long. Battle scenes tend to take a long time in fiction sometimes. It's not too long. It's crisp. It's crunchy. It gets into the nitty-gritty. And the victory that Dunk achieves is based both on his skill as a knight, which is not really all that well developed. He's really not all that skillful of a knight. He kind of gets his ass handed to him on horseback, but it is also based on his skill as a scrap fighter, a down and dirty and nasty, a grimy fighter that he learned in the streets of Flea Bottom, getting into scraps with other kids. That is the kind of fighting that wins him the day. I love it. It's so good. It's so excellent. All right. We got just a few pages left. Let's finish it up. Afterward, Dunk could not have said whether he walked from that field under his own power or had required help. He hurt everywhere, and some places worse than others. Am I a knight now, in truth? He remembered, wondering. Am I a champion? Egg helped him remove his greaves and gorget, and raiment as well, and even steely pate. He was too dazed to tell them apart. They were fingers and thumbs and voices. Pate was the one complaining, Dunk knew. Look what he's done to me armor, he said. All dinted and banged and scratched.
Aye, I ask you, why do I bother? I'll have to cut that mail off him. Raymond, the others, how did they fare? Has anyone died? Beesbury, Raymond said, slain by Donald of Duskendale in the first charge. Sir Humphrey is gravely wounded as well. The rest of us are bruised and bloody, no more, save for you. And them, the accusers? Sir William Wilde of the Kingsguard was carried from the field insensate, lacking physical sensation. I would have said incensed, but I suppose that's a different English word, isn't it? Insensate. Insensate? Insensate. And I think I cracked a few of my cousin's ribs. At least I hope so. And Prince Darun, did he survive? Once Sir Robin unhorsed him, he lay where he fell. He may have a broken foot. His own horse trod on him while running loose about the field. Dazed and confused as he was, Dunk felt a huge surge of relief. His dream was wrong then. The dead dragon. Unless Arion died. He didn't though, did he? No, said Egg. Oh, Pikachu! Pikachu! There's only two. I can never get through the full evolution line. No, said Egg. You spared him. Don't you remember? I suppose. Already his memories of the fight were becoming confused and vague. One moment I feel drunk. The next it hurts so bad I know I'm dying. They made him lie down on his back and talked him over the details, and he gazed up at the roiling gray sky. Gods be good, the lance point drove the rings into his flesh, he heard Raymond saying. It will mortify unless... get him drunk and pour some boiling oil into it, someone suggested. That's how the maesters do it. Wine, not oil, that'll kill him. Boiling wine. I'll send Maester Yormwell. Maester Yormwell, what an interesting name. To have a look at it. Maester Ormwell? Who's Maester Yormwell? What an interesting name. Maester Yormwell. Maester Yormwell. Fascinating. A tall knight stood above him. Yep, it's Prince Baelor. A tall knight stood above him in black armor, dinted and scarred by many blows. Prince Baelor. The scarlet dragon on his helm had lost a head, both wings and most of its tail. Your Grace, Dunk said. I am your man, please. Your man. My man. The Black Knight put a hand on Raymond's shoulder to steady himself. I need good men, Sir Duncan. The realm... Ugh. His voice sounded oddly slurred. Perhaps he'd bit his tongue. Dunk was very tired. It was hard to stay awake. Your man, he murmured once more. The prince moved his head slowly from side to side. Sir Raymond, my helm, if you'd be so kind. My visor's cracked, and my fingers feel like wood. At once, Your Grace. Raymond took the prince's helm in both hands and grunted. Good man, Pate, a hand. Steely Pate dragged over a mounting stool. It's crushed down at the back, Your Grace, toward the left side, smashed into the gorget. Good steel this to stop such a blow. Brother's mace, most like. He's strong. That feels queer. Here it comes. Pate lifted the battered helm away. Gods be good. Oh gods. Oh gods. Oh gods. Oh gods. Dunk saw something red and wet fall out of the helm. Someone was screaming high and terrible. Against the bleak gray sky swayed a tall prince in black armor with only half a skull. He could see red blood and pale bone and something else, something blue-gray and pulpy. A queer, troubled look passed across Baelor Breakspear's face, like a cloud passing before a sun. He raised a hand and touched the back of his head with 2 fingers, oh so lightly. And then he fell. Dunk caught him. Up, they say, he said, just as he had with Thunder in the melee. Up, up! But he never remembered that afterward, and the prince did not rise. Baelor of House Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone, Hand of the King, Protector of the Realm, and Heir Apparent to the Iron Throne, went into the fire in the yard of Ashford Castle on the north bank of the river Cockleswent. Other great houses might choose to bury their dead in the dark earth or sink them into the cold sea, but the Targaryens were the blood of the dragon, and their ends were writ in flame. He had been the finest knight of his age, and some argued that he should have gone to face the dark clad in mail and plate, a sword in hand. In the end, though, his royal father's wishes prevailed, and Daeron II had a peaceable nature. When Dunk shuffled past Baelor's bier, the prince wore a black velvet tunic, and a three-headed dragon picked out in scarlet upon his breast. Around his throat was a heavy gold chain. His sword was sheathed by his side, but he did wear a helm, a thin gold helm with an open visor, so men could see his face. Valar, the young prince, stood vigil at the foot of the bier while his father lay in state. He was a shorter, slimmer, handsomer version of his sire, without the twice-broken nose that had made Baelor seem more human than royal. Valar's hair was brown, but a bright streak of silver gold ran through it. The sight of it reminded Dunk of Aerion, but he knew that that was not fair. Egg's hair was growing back as bright as his brother's, and Egg was a decent enough lad for a prince. When he stopped to offer awkward sympathies, well larded with thanks, Prince Valar blinked cool blue eyes at him. My father was 39. He had it in him to be a great king, the greatest since Aegon the Dragon. Why would the gods take him and leave you? He shook his head. Begone with you, Sir Duncan. Begone. Wordless, Dunk limped from the castle, down to the camp by the green pool. He had no answer for Valar, nor for the questions he asked himself. The maesters and the boiling wine had done their work, and his wound was healing cleanly, though there would be a deep, puckered scar between his left arm and his nipple. He could not see the wound without thinking of Baelor. He saved me once with his sword, and once with a word, even though he was a dead man as he stood there. The world made no sense. When a great prince died and a hedge knight might live, Dunk sat beneath his elm and stared morosely at his foot. Pardon me for getting so into those sections, right? We skip the boring parts, right? We highlight the parts that are exciting. The trouble is with these books, with the Dunk and Egg books, they're all exciting. They're all excellent. Baelor Breakspear is dead. And Sir Duncan the Tall, who is not a knight and not a Duncan, is alive. Why? I suppose that's the question. Is it the case that the universe has no whys and has no order, and that these things just happen? Or is there a reason that Dunk lives? When 4 guardsmen in royal livery appeared in his camp late one day, he was sure they had come to kill him after all. Too weak and too weary to reach for a sword, he sat with his back to the elm, waiting. Our prince begs a private word. Which prince? Asked Dunk wary. This prince, a brusque voice said before the captain could answer. Mycor Targaryen walked out from behind the elm. The guards vanish. Mycor sends the guards away, right? I have sent Aerion to Lys, he said, gazing down at his reflection in the water. A few years in the free cities may change him for the better. Dunk is thinking that he had never been to the free cities. He was pleased that Aerion was gone from the 7 kingdoms and hoped he would never come back. But that was not a thing you told a father of his son. Some men will say I meant to kill my brother. The gods know it is a lie, but I will hear the whispers till the day I die. It was my mace that dealt the fatal blow, I have no doubt. The only other foes he faced in the melee were 3 king's guards, whose vows forbade them to do any more than defend themselves. So it was me. Strange to say, I do not recall the blow that broke his skull. Is that a mercy or a curse? Some of both, I think. He's saying this to Duncan, and Duncan is confused and upset. I could not say, my lord. I could not say, your grace. Perhaps he should have hated Mycar, but instead he felt sympathy for the man. A queer sympathy for the man. Mm-hmm. You swung the mace, my lord, but it was for me the Prince Baelor died. I killed him too, as much as you. Yes, the prince admitted. You'll hear them whisper as well. The king is old. When he dies, Valar will climb the Iron Throne in place of his father. Each time a battle is lost or a crop fails, the fools will say, Baelor would not have let this happen, but the Hedge Knight killed him. Dunk could see the truth in that. If I had not fought, would you have had my hand off? If I had not fought, you would have had my hand off, and my foot. Sometimes I sit under that tree there and look at my feet, and I ask myself if I couldn't have spared one. How could my foot be worth a prince's life? And the other two as well, the Humphreys, they were good men. And what answer does the tree give you? None that I can hear. But the old man, Sir Arlen, every day at evenfall he'd say, I wonder what the morrow will bring. He never knew, no more than I do. Well, mightn't it be that some morrow will come when I'll have need of that foot? When the realm will have need of that foot, even more than a prince's life? Mycar chewed on that a long time, mouth clenched beneath the silvery pale beard that made his face seem so square. It's not bloody likely, he said harshly. The realm has as many hedge knights as hedges, and all of them have feet. If your grace has a better answer, I'd love to hear it. Mycar frowned. It may be that the gods have a taste for cruel japes, or perhaps there are no gods. Perhaps none of this had any meaning. I'd ask the High Septon, but the last time I went to him, he told me that no man can truly understand the workings of the gods. Perhaps he should try sleeping under a tree. He grimaced. My youngest son seems to have grown fond of you, sir. It is time he was a squire, but he tells me he will serve no knight but you. He's an unruly boy, as you have noticed. Will you have him? Me? Dunk's mouth opened and closed and opened again. Aegon, I mean, he's a good lad, but your grace, I know you honor me, but I'm only a hedge knight. That can be changed, said Mycar. Aegon is to return to my castle at Summerhall. There is a place for you there, if you wish. A knight of my household. You'll swear your sword to me, and Aegon can squire for you. While you train him, my master-at-arms will finish your own training. The prince gave him a shrewd look. Your Sir Arlen did all he could for you, I have no doubt, but you still have much to learn. I know, my lord. And we see Dunk looking out over the reeds. He spies another dragonfly. He wondered if it was the same one. What shall it be, Dunk? He asked himself. Dragonflies or dragons? Just before Prince Baelor died, I swore to be his man. Presumptuous of you, said Magar. What did he say? That the realm needed good men. That's true enough. What of it? I will take your son as a squire, your grace, but not at Summerhall, not for a year or two. He's seen sufficient of castles, I would judge. I'll have him only if I can take him on the road with me. He pointed to old Chestnut. He'll ride my steed, wear my cloak, and he'll keep my sword sharp and my mail scoured. We'll sleep in inns and stables, and now and again in halls of some landed knight or lesser lordling, maybe under trees when we must. Prince Mycar gave him an incredulous look. Did the trial addle your wits, man? Aegon is a prince of the realm, the blood of the dragon. Princes are not made for sleeping in ditches and eating hard salt beef. What is it you're afraid to tell me? Say what you will, sir. I want to point out as a little side here that he has stopped calling he has stopped calling Dunk boy. And he said, man. Dayron never slept in a ditch, I'll wager, Dunk said very quietly. And all the beef that Arion ever ate was rare and thick and bloody. Mycor Targaryen, Prince of Summerhall, regarded Dunk of Fleabottom for a long time, his jaw working silently beneath his silvery beard. Finally, he turned and walked away, never speaking a word. Dunk heard him riding off with his men. When they were gone, there was no sound but the faint thrum of the dragonfly's wings as it skimmed across the water. The boy came the next morning, just as the sun was coming up. He wore old boots, brown breeches, and brown wool tunic, and an old traveler's cloak. My father says I am to serve you. Serve you, sir, Dunk reminded him. You can start by saddling the horses. Chestnut is yours. Treat her kindly. I don't want to find you on Thunder unless I put you there. Egg went to get the saddles. Where are we going, sir? Dunk thought for a moment. I've never been over the Red Mountains. Would you care to have a look at Dorne? Egg grinned. I hear they have good puppet shows. And that's it. That's it. It just ends there. Full stop. Tom unscrews his bottle of James Bayam and takes one more drink. Because it was stupid of Dunk to talk to Mycor like that. And it was stupid of him to deny the offer that Mycor gave him. The best offer that anyone in his position has ever received. To become the man-at-arms to a prince. A prince who we know will become the heir apparent in not too long. It was stupid, but wise. You think of things that are clever and unwise with some frequency. This was stupid, but showed a wisdom that no one in this universe seems to have. All the beef that Arion ever ate was thick and rich and bloody. Do not make Aegon like Arion. Do not raise Aegon like Arion, he says. Let Prince Prince Aegon Targaryen, who will one day become King Aegon V. Let Prince Aegon Targaryen spend a little bit of time as Egg traveling the world, that he might see some things, that he might understand a little bit of what the world is and how the world works before he becomes mired in court life or wedded off. Let him see how the realm is before he comes back. And that's it. That is The Hedge Knight from George R.R. Martin. It is the first of the 3 Dunk and Egg novellas. If you guys enjoy this sort of thing, if for some reason you are still watching this sort of thing, please do tell me. I read every comment. And I long to talk about these novellas. They are my favorite. They are my favorite pieces of fiction in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe. They may be my favorite. They may be on my list of favorite pieces of fiction ever. Like, given the choice between A Feast for Crows, which is my favorite A Song of Ice and Fire novel, and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which is the collected works of all three Duncan Egg novellas that have been published so far, I'll take A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It's excellent. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It's sweet and it's charming, but it maintains the same level of like gritty realism that A Song of Ice and Fire does. So if you guys like this kind of thing, I'll do the Sworn Sword next. If you guys like it, we can do more. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to get some better beverages than James Bayham Kentucky flavored beverages. Oh, and of course, one other thing. Zach is away. I would like everyone who's made it this far into the video. We are 3 hours and 24 minutes into this video. If you are still listening to this video, it would mean a lot to me if you go into the comments and tell Zach that he is a baller, that the things that he's doing are fantastic, that he is the coolest motherfucker on planet Earth, because I'm holding down the YouTube channel, but he is doing real good things for the world, and we are proud of him here. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to, you can subscribe. That would be very nice. We're like 1.25K, which is stupid. You can also come and join our Discord. You can also join our Patreon if you want to, where I will be uploading an outtake fairly soon. Otherwise, thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this. And again, please let me know if you want me to do more stuff like this. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.